I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will start with public comments, and Peter Reich, you signed up first.
Yep. Thank you. See, you kind of took secret off the agenda about that, but I figure I'll still, while I'm here, just get it off my chest.
It's going back on for November 19th.
Okay, but anyway,
Just talking about chapter 60.
60.
Oh, wow.
So the town board adopted chapter 60, environmental quality review, in 1968. And I'll quote part of it, 60-12, type actions. A, for purposes of this chapter, type 1 actions include all of those given in section 12 of part 617 of the New York Code's rules and regulations. In addition to the above, the following actions shall also be type 1 actions in the town of Shelter Island, and it lists 10. Number 10 is any operation which may degrade or despoil any freshwater or tidal wetlands. I urge you to delete that number 10 from our code as it is in direct conflict with state code. I can cite many reasons, but one clear one is from the SECRA handbook, which explains why type 2 action cannot be made into a type 1 action by stating, this is in their handbook, number 13. Why can't an agency add statewide type 2 actions from 6 NYCCR 617 to their list of type 1 actions? Individual agency type 1 list may not include actions from the adopted statewide type 2 list, because such actions have been determined on a statewide basis as not having a significant adverse effect on the environment and therefore not requiring an EIS under SECRA. Also, 6 NYCRR Part 617, point 5, type 2 actions. C, the following actions are not subject to review under this part. Number 11, construction or expansion of a single family, a 2-family, or a 3-family residence on an approved lot, including provision necessary utility connections is provided in paragraph 13 of the subdivision, and the installation goes on and on. I certainly am not a lawyer, but as I read this as an individual agency, the town of Shelter Island may not take an item from the state's type 2 list and move it to their own type 1 list. Construction expansion of a single family house clearly falls under the state's type 2 list. Therefore, it must remain a type 2 action, and you can't move it to a type 1 list. In the 38 years since chapter 60 was adopted, I don't recall any single family ZBA or wetlands applications that were subject to secret type 1 review, certainly none during the 12 years I was on the board. Since this questionable practice started a few months ago, it has become extremely burdensome to applicants and costly both to the applicants and the town. The time from application to permit for simple permit has increased from 3 months to 6 to 9 months. The type 1 application is dozens of pages of useless questions that don't apply to single family houses on our island, such as how many feet down to bedrock? Wetlands applications already have a lot of review and input from our committees and boards, including yourself. There is no reason to have this additional, probably illegal, extra layer of review. Again, I urge you to drop 60-12-B10 from our code. You did not create this code, but allowing it to continue is a problem. It is anti-business and anti-property rights. You have the responsibility and power to correct this bad section of code, protect our town against Article 78 from this poor code. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the physical audience who wishes to make a public comment that's not on the agenda or subject to a public hearing? Sean Davey, I saw you had your hand up.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, good afternoon. So just to be clear, I believe you're discussing potential funding for nearshore today, and we're permitted to comment. Is that correct? And would now
Yes.
be the right time, or will you open for comment during that discussion?
We will open for comments when we get to that agenda item.
Okay, then I'll wait my turn.
Okay, thank you.
You mean number 4?
Yes, number 4. Anyone else with public comments? We will move on to our first agenda item then, which is the dot code. So we had the public hearing on October 7th, and today it's up to the board to sit and discuss the changes that we would like to see made. We had comments that came from the committee. I printed it too small. Do you have it bigger?
I just have it on my screen.
Okay, yeah, if you want to go through them.
First, Albert and I spoke with Bill and Matt on Friday, and trying to figure out the best way to discuss changes. Matt and Bill have provided an email to the town board outlining what we discussed on that call and what they think are good changes to make going forward. I think I'll just, there's not a lot here, but it's all important, obviously. Bill, the best way is just read the email, probably.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Okay. So the first change that is being proposed is in the definition sections. The definition of a commercial vessel. A boat or vessel used primarily to generate income was added, or which is documented or registered as a commercial passenger vessel, either with New York State or the United States Coast Guard, or such vessel that requires a commercial United States Coast Guard license to be held for its operation. This change responds to, well, Peter just left, unfortunately, a response to a comment Peter Reish made. And it broadens the definition of commercial vessel. And I certainly support this change. Any discussion or keep going?
no, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that change.
Okay.
Albert? How about you're good with that change?
Yes.
Next was change the definition of a private dock. And it now reads private dock, a dock utilized by the owner or occupant to accommodate pleasure vessels or resident-owned commercial fishing vessels and for recreational purposes. That's what was added, the last bit, for recreational purposes. Some people were complaining that we can't fish off your dock under the old definition, which sure, but I'm a big fan of if you think it says that, just say it. So, and for recreational purposes was added.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Good.
I'm also good with that.
The next definition that was tweaked was the definition of riparian rights. It now reads the entitlement, which was what it said originally. It was changed to right, and for some reason, people were commenting that it should be entitlement, which is not as stringent, well, not as bold as a right, but fine. So it was changed back to entitlement. So the entitlement of the owner of upland property fronting on a body of water to reasonable access to and use of such navigable water. I'm okay with this. I don't think it's It's not a positive change, it actually makes it a little more,
What if you leave the word right in there too, so it's an entitlement right of the owner? Kind of covers both bases, it's redundant, but
yeah, I was gonna say that's redundant, but.
yeah. I don't necessarily think we need the word entitlement.
I thought it was fine, but it was stronger with the word right in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right is
We softened it by going
an
back.
inalienable right, but entitlement is something that you're given,
Yeah.
I think. That's my interpretation.
I'm fine with going back to right.
Yeah, I would stick with right. Yeah.
I think it's more definitive, right? I'm in favor of that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And adding and use of such, I think it's also, it helps.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
fine.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Next comment moves to section 53-6, permit issuance and terms. And this is about inspecting. So upon the transfer of any property improved with the dock, the certificate of compliance shall be updated to include the new owner's name. Good. And an inspection shall be conducted by a licensed dock contractor to certify that the subject dock is in good repair and to provide a written report to the dock inspector. I think this is a positive change as well. Before it read that, the town would inspect the dock, basically, which, we don't have great resources for that. This at least shifts the burden onto either the buyer or seller to get it inspected and provide the town with a report. So I'm okay with this. And I know John Needham, Angelo Picozzi had asked for this.
I'm okay with it because I think that in order to do a pretty comprehensive dock inspection, you're gonna need to get in the water. And I think that I'd rather have, someone who does it for a living make the assessment, especially on property transfer. It's one thing if you're
Yeah.
looking at decking that's popping off or something, but.
Which can still catch the eye of
Absolutely.
our marine people.
Absolutely, absolutely. But like for like an official transfer from one owner to another, it's like updating the CO. You want to know that it's.
You may consider making it either or, that it's either an inspection by the dock master or a certification from a engineer.
Okay.
Okay, I
I
can
like
see
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. The next comment was in 53.8, existing docks. Any repairs of a private dock, that was added to match the definitions above. Any repairs of a private dock deteriorating, damaged, or destroyed by any cause, including an act of God, where, as determined by the dock inspector, was added, 30 to 50% or more of the original structure supporting members, such as pilings and framing, remain in a structurally sound condition, is usable and shall remain so long as the repairs are in kind and in place and are determined by the town board to significantly lessen the pre-existing nonconformity.
It's,
53.8?
and actually, because it's at the town board level, we can't take any other public comment at this point.
Gotcha.
So yeah, 53.8A3.
And look at the note that was provided by Matt and Bill, were together with 53.7A to address concerns about rebuilding commercial docks to their existing size in the event of destruction beyond 50%. Okay, okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good clarification.
Moving on to 53-7, design and construction of private and commercial docks. A, this is the 53.7A that we just mentioned. No more than one private dock shall be attached or connected to any parcel of upland. That's a good thing.
Right, it's just that it doesn't make
Yeah.
all of the commercial docks.
Yeah, it's a private dock. That's what, yeah, it separates out commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're building any new commercial docks in Hampstead. So the pre-existing non-conforming use is also fine. Next, 5310, regulations regarding living or residing on boats at docks. This is, I guess, the black and brown water tanks. If equipped with a Y valve, maintain their boat's Y valve in a closed and secure position and make the equipment available for inspection by the dock inspector or bay constable, harbor master, or other authorized individual performing such functions. This is a response to a comment by Peter Reich and John Needham. Yeah, we basically don't want dumps dumping their brown and black water in our inland waters.
No.
So we should be checking on that. Next comment was 5312, waivers. Such waivers shall only be granted by a supermajority vote of the town board. Basically, a waiver or variance from the dock code. Before it said it had to be unanimous decision by the town board to grant a waiver. It's now been downgraded to a supermajority.
And supermajority. What's a supermajority? Because I mean, we've got
Well, if there are 5 of us, it's 3.
3. Okay, that's just.
No, supermajority is 4.
It's 4, sorry.
Yeah,
It's gotta be,
That should just be a
I thought it was
majority.
60%, it's 80%?
majority plus 1, so it would be 3, and then you add the 4th.
That would be 4. So one person can sort of be rogue.
This is the only place in town code across town board, zoning board, planning board, that we're putting in a supermajority. I just don't think that that's a place we should go.
So you're suggesting that just be a
Just a
straight up majority?
Yeah.
Say a majority, is that where you are, Amber? See, I think the supermajority is, I'm in favor of that. I think to give releases, to give variances, I think it should be a supermajority.
You want to do that in all code sections? We do that for zoning board, we do it for planning board, anytime, anything that needs a variance.
You know what, I mean, that's something then you're having me consider something else. I know what you're saying. I just think granting variances set precedents. And if it's easier to set a precedent, then somebody else says, well, you gave it to him, I want it. That's all. So I think a supermajority gives more decision making.
Just so you recall, this came about because there was some question as to whether or not to allow waivers at all. So that's why it went to save the possibility of granting a waiver, went to unanimous. So now it would be reduced to a supermajority. And then the difference between this and let's say ZBA, it's state law controls as far as just a mere majority is allowed for variance. You can't change it to a supermajority because state law trumps what we can do as far as that. But here, it's all up to you, whether or not you want just a plain vanilla majority or a supermajority.
We started with none, and then we went to unanimous. I mean, going to supermajority seems fair. Going below that seems swinging the pendulum way to the other side.
I disagree, I just think it's a bad precedent that and we haven't done it before elsewhere. But if the 3 of you,
I would prefer a majority.
Okay, that one's up.
Because that makes this
it just,
unique occurrence.
it's different than our wetlands application, site plan review. Mooring like anything that we approve, I just feel like it's a one-off.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. And this is the last comment provided by Bill and Matt. 5317, enforcement. In the event the owner does not remove or repair the dock within 30 days of notice by the dock inspector, the owner shall be notified by certified mail that the town will make any necessary repairs to render the dock safe at the owner's expense. 30 days notice, that is what was added. That's what we're talking here.
My concern about that is if there's an imminent life and safety issue, you don't want to give 30 days notice for someone to fix it.
But we'd still be required to do it by certified mail? That's gonna take how many days?
Yeah, but again, typically you want to give the enforcement authority the discretion as to how much time a person has to fix it based on the severity of the issue. So sometimes it's, you know, and we can bypass the certified return receipt with personal. We can add that in there, that personal delivery. And, you know, because again, we come up with these things on the code enforcement side. And, you know, you don't want to be handcuffed into 30 days if it truly is an imminent danger to people. You want to say, okay, a day or 48 hours or a week. You don't want to be hamstrung to the 30 days.
It makes an important point, in my opinion, which is if we need to act, we should be able to act.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
it's
the
true.
rest, the rest of it says, in the event the owner does not remove or repair the dock within the time required by the dock inspector. So
Right.
time required is on the dock inspector.
And we can add in, the owner shall be notified by certified mail or personal delivery that the town will make a necessary repair. So, I mean, if we know where the person lives, we can always go to their house and.
If there's an
Yeah,
urgency,
if
it
there's
can
an
be addressed.
emergency, yeah, we can address it directly.
Agreed. Those were the changes suggested by Bill and Matt of the WMAC. I'm comfortable with what we've discussed here. I don't really have any other major adds to it, but I'm sure someone up here does.
Yeah, I'm reviewing the public hearing things.
I just have a couple of notes, like there was a comment made at one point, why is the word domiciliary definition in the code? It's not used anywhere in the text. And it's not used in the text of the code, but it is used in the definition of a resident. So that's why it's also included in the definitions, just to kind of clarify that question that the public had.
We could incorporate that into the definition of resident, like incorporate the definition of domiciliary into that
Do that.
to avoid.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because otherwise it's not used anywhere else in the chapter. So it really is just a definition in the definitions for another definition.
yeah.
I'm sorry, how are we gonna address that?
Blend the domiciliary definition into the resident definition and make them one definition.
Gotcha.
I had a couple comments. So I'll just dive in. Unsuitable locations. I don't necessarily think that blocking off 50% of the island's coastline based purely on wind is substantial enough of a justification.
Well, wind
I
and tide,
think-
storm, I mean, it's all weather conditions.
I think it would be better if we were to develop a criteria that the committee uses to evaluate dock applications. So take into account wind, take into account the shoreline, take into account submerged aquatic vegetation in the area, DEC regulated areas, things like that, when evaluating the applications. it feels extreme, and I feel like if we're just making a blanket no-go zone for like 50% of the coast, it just opens us up to a lot of problems, and it's harder to defend than it is, if we say, well, we received this application, and these are all the reasons why it's unsuitable. There's wind conditions, there's rough seas, there's a rocky coastline, there's a preserved eelgrass bed. There are all these other things which make this an unsuitable location. I think I would prefer to see a criteria developed rather than just like
Would you be more comfortable with changing the definition to add those things? Unsuitable locations because of all those things.
I don't think all of these locations would apply to, you know what,
But also you can grant a waiver. So they could seek a waiver from that unsuitable location to the town board.
But I still think we should add that stuff to the definition.
I don't necessarily think it needs to be a definition. I think it should be like an evaluation criteria or something, like a list of things that need to be considered in the evaluation of a dock application.
Yeah, I think what you can do is take those criteria and put it into the waiver section, that the town board may be able to waive the unsuitable location prohibition upon consideration of these criteria.
So similar to how ZBA does it, where they go through a list of reasons why.
Correct, and we could also incorporate the WMAC into it by asking for a report from them. And then put the burden on the applicant to show that it is not an unsuitable location.
Okay with that.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean,
The important part is that we make it clear that we don't think having docks in those
Excessive exposure.
is a good idea. And if you can convince us otherwise, you have that right of due process through the waiver application process. I'm okay with that.
We are the least restrictive town on the east end
Oh.
as far as docks.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about, this causing lawsuits and won't be able to defend. Every town around us has restricted areas for docks.
Yeah.
Everyone except us. So that's a loser. That's a lawsuit I'm happy to defend every day of the week. But I think we should give people an opportunity to make their case.
I mean, we do already have a waiver section, all possible code complaint alternatives, unique site conditions, the criteria enumerated in 5316, and whether the request is self-created hardship. So maybe we could beef it up with wind considerations, the SAV, the submerged aquatic vegetation. Which does have like some Hay Beach
Also
point.
storm patterns.
I mean, they use the NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Aeronautics Group for data to verify, to kind of substantiate these locations. I mean, that was one of the issues that people said, where's the data involved? Where's the expertise?
Well, the
was pretty-
WMAC actually pulled all the data and looked at it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
made
Yes.
charts and
Yeah, we've got-
tide graphs.
Yeah, we have this, which has like the wind, and it's like, the highest winds are predominantly from the southwest,
Southwest.
which covers Silver Beach, Shell Beach area. The SAV actually deals more with the Hay Beach through Mashonack.
I think that's an important criteria to add.
Yeah.
The SAB and
Mhm.
historic storm patterns.
What is SAB?
Submerged aquatic vegetation, it's a mapping done by the DEC on sensitive underwater vegetation areas like eelgrass beds and things like that.
Yeah, I have something I can forward on to you, Stephen. It's the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, an inventory of submerged aquatic vegetation and hardened shorelines for the Peconic Estuary.
Okay.
I like unsuitable locations as it's written. I mean, we had people, well, the WMAC, I believe, last year, they recommended not having a dock built on Conic Avenue.
Mhm.
And the town board passed it at that time. And there were people I know that live on Conic Avenue that were talking about, one person in particular doesn't have a dock, they'd like to have a dock, but they think this would be ridiculous to have a dock there. And then somebody else said, go along Peconic Avenue, and there's no boats on docks there with the wind condition, the exposure. So I would be in favor of leaving unsuitable locations as it is.
Yeah, I just want to make it a little bit more, like, put some more meat into it by referencing SAB and wind, because I was not in favor of that dock on the Conic. I ended up being sick that day, but
Oh, I don't know
I
who,
would
I'm
have dragged
not,
myself
but
to the
it
meeting
was
if
an
I
issue
thought.
that came up during the hearing.
You're saying you're in favor of
Just
having
building.
an avenue of redress.
Yes, yeah, so whether or not it's taking out the unsuitable locations or addressing it in the waivers. And so I think maybe addressing it in the waivers, similar to how ZBA addresses granting waivers.
Okay.
Just having more information pull into it. Does that satisfy what you're?
I mean, you don't think we should have a professional look at
Okay with
it?
that.
Well, that would be nice. And
I mean-
if we get this 3-month extension, then we have the time to do that.
Mhm. Okay.
Again, our code is the least restrictive on the east end.
Yeah, I am all for leaving those little locations in as it is, but offering an avenue of redress.
Okay. I can go with that.
The next one I had was 153.5 permit applications. You go down to, what is it now? It's G. It's CG. C2G, I don't know, there's a whole lot. It's down in the middle, before D. It's on page 9. That would be more helpful.
Yeah.
My version of page 9. It says, a copy of wetlands application pursuant to chapter 129 if required. I feel like it's really redundant to have both a wetlands application and a dock or bulkhead permit application. Either, it should be one or the other. It doesn't make sense to do both. Or we need to blend it into one application, and it's just a wetlands application, and then it encompasses docks and bulkheads as well. Because it doesn't make sense to have people do the same review twice, it's just redundant.
That makes sense. What's the best way to do it?
I think
If
it's
it-
a coordinated review.
You're
Yeah,
still
because you
doing
want
two separate
WMAC
applications, you're
involved.
still doing two separate fee structures, you're still doing just for one application.
Well, if we roll it
Hey,
into,
where were you, Meg? I'm sorry. What
On
number
page
is this?
9, page 9,
Code section.
it's, that's what, code section 53.5 CG, you think?
Okay, yep, found.
And it's under like permit, the permit application. And it says a copy of wetlands application pursuant to 129 if required. And I think in chapter 129, the draft we have, it says you don't need a wetlands application if you have a dock or a bulkhead permit application submitted. So I know that's in draft, but I think we need to figure out if it's going to be one or the other. I think the one that we're reviewing right now is unique in like that Loftus Dam got divided by the applicant because they didn't want to wait. So then they created 2 wetlands reviews on that one application. But most of the time, when we get a dock or a bulkhead, it's just a dock or a bulkhead.
Mhm.
So to then require wetlands on top of it doesn't make sense. You know that with a bulkhead, you're going to have some action happening behind the bulkhead in order to either fill it or like backfill the bulkhead or secure it in some way. So I think with those applications, you have to assume there's going to be some upland impact. And that just has to be rolled into part of the bulkhead application. permit.
Is that, oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's just why I'm thinking it shouldn't.
Does it involve like, walkways, things of that nature to access the dock? I
Yes.
think that's the issue. If that can be defined and broken out somehow, I don't know. I think that's kind of the crux of it.
That won't still. Well, no,
Fire
yeah, I was gonna say, those in the code, they don't count, so.
Separate application.
I mean, it's one thing, like, if they're doing a major renovation of the house, there's a whole bunch of other things going on that are triggering a wetlands review, and at the same time they're doing a bulkhead or a dock, then I can understand that. But if it's just for a dock or a bulkhead, and you need an access to the dock, that's all part of the dock application.
But is that really in the purview of the
I think it
WMAC?
should be when it comes to being in relation to a dock. Are you gonna say like 50 feet up landward of the bulkhead is jurisdiction of the bulkhead application? Like, I don't know how you want to define it, but I feel like there needs to be a line where you're not doing two applications for one item. I mean, everywhere else, their dock and bulkhead applications are part of the wetlands permit process. We are one of the only towns that have it separated out as a separate thing.
So if we merge them together, number one, I want to make sure WMAC is still involved.
Yeah,
Yes.
Number two. Okay. So anytime you want, if you just want a dock, you still have to do a wetlands application.
well, that's the thing, like, that's why I think it either needs to be, if you're just doing a dock, then you just need a dock application, you don't need a wetlands application. Same thing for a bulkhead. Anything that's just purely dock, bulkhead related, I don't think it should trigger a wetlands permit.
Well,
we just
historically,
define that?
historically, that's how it's been treated.
Right.
That, if you got a dock permit, you're exempt from wetlands, like,
Right.
you know, so.
And I don't know why that changed recently, but I think.
Well, because people were scrutinizing the language in wetlands that led one to believe that if you're, screwing with the wetlands, that now you have to get wetlands and also dock. But I think the intent behind it was to avoid the redundancy. And particularly here, since the town board is the reviewing agency on both.
Right.
I
mean,
You may want to incorporate review by CAC
CAC, we want some sort of coordinated review.
into the stock law, so you have CAC and WMAC, and then at least you have their comments and expertise regarding wetland disturbance.
So Stephen, what you're saying is if you're going for a dock bulkhead, you have a separate application, but it's a coordinated review with CAC?
No, yeah, so you won't have to file a wetlands application, you just do
you-
a dock bulkhead. But we add to, lend some expertise from the CAC, we add CAC review in addition to WMAC review.
How do you feel about that, Albert?
Yeah, and it would still ultimately come to the town board for a decision?
Yes.
And they
Yeah.
all do.
Yeah.
It's making sense to me, but.
I don't know, Stephen, can we define it, break it out
Yeah, I'm trying to think like how.
to an access, to a walkway, access to the dock? Somehow
Yeah, 'cause
to
I think we're gonna make
delineate
it-
it.
Yeah, so we can make sure that, this is purely for plain vanilla docks, bulkheads, whatever. If you're gonna add a walkway that's going through wetlands, then you're gonna have to go through a wetlands permit application for that portion of the project.
So should
We
these,
were addressing that in the wetlands code. Like, everything's gotten all wacky and twisted. But I think we just need to draw a line.
I was gonna say, should these go to the building department and they write a letter similar to a denial letter that says, you've got this, it's just a dock or bulkhead application. You've got more going on, you now need a wetlands application in lieu of a dock bulkhead application.
I think that just complicates it. I mean, historically, it's always
It does
been
move forward,
a
yes.
dock application or a bulkhead application went to the WMAC and then went to the town board for approval. It's not, nothing's changed since then. It's just that people have started to make it complicated and make it more of a problem. It hasn't changed the way docks have been installed or designed or anything. It's just created a headache, and it's created more problems for the building department, for the applicants. You know, I think this is an opportunity to clarify and streamline it. And then we can clarify it in the wetlands code, which we're also in the process of reviewing.
Are you okay with what we're discussing, Meg, which is if it's just dock bulkhead exempt wetlands, but include CAC to
That's
protect
fine.
the environment?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Albert?
Wait, I'm still confused. How do, like, so it never goes to wetlands?
A
Or-
dock and bulkhead application wouldn't be a wetlands application. It must be a dock and bulkhead application, but now the CAC would also look at it
Mhm.
for any potential upland impacts, and then the WMAC would look at it, and then the town board would rule on it.
But, so if there's a walkway, they're opining on that.
Yeah, because
the
it's part
CAC
of the, it should be, if it's connected to the dock, it's part of the dock. If it's connected to the bulkhead, it's part of the bulkhead. So if they're doing something above and beyond that, then they'd have to go for a whole different application, because that's a different structure.
Walkway to the.
Right.
And that's sort of
Right.
what I was saying is,
Catwalk.
the building inspector looks at it and says, okay, you're doing this, it's all attached, this looks and smells like a dock with just a walkway. Whereas like Loftus Hills TAM is like, there's a lot going on that needs to go to wetlands.
But
See,
wouldn't
even
CAC
that-
would recommend, I mean, in their review, CAC can say this should be a wetlands application?
I think,
Yeah, no, the arbiter should be the building department.
yeah, I don't think it should be
Building
a
inspector.
the volunteer committee.
'Cause the app, right now, the dock application goes to where, Amber or the building department?
Goes to Amber.
Goes to you?
Yeah,
I
it goes
think
to Amber.
Town clerk's office.
All right, I would suggest everything go right to the building department and you have one-stop shop, and he makes a determination and issues a denial letter that's either wetlands or dock. Because our definition of dock includes the walkway and the access to the dock. So if it's all
Right.
connected, it's one thing, it's a dock permit. If it's anything above and beyond that, like if there's a break and then a continuation of a walk, then that separate structure is wetlands, if it's within the jurisdiction.
But we need the code to be clear so the building department knows how to write the letter.
Mhm.
And that's what I was
Correct.
trying to do, is like, what exactly, what's the defining, you know,
Yeah.
fork in the road?
Well, I mean, part of that is we have to look at the wetlands code next to this code
Mhm.
and make sure that they're both clear.
Yeah,
Because
in this case, you know, what we gotta focus on is the definition of a dock. If it's attached to a dock, all you need is a dock permit, and the wetlands has to be cleaned up to make that clear. On the wetland side, because right now it's sort of clear, but then it adds this little gobbledygook language that has made things complicated. Because it says, you know, if you got a dock permit, you don't need a wetlands permit. Unless X, Y, and Z, and that X, Y, and Z has been exploited to have the added bureaucracy of the wetlands.
Kind of makes sense in a weird way.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of in the
No, I
same
mean,
place.
it really does.
Yeah, I think it's just in the writing.
So we can definitely streamline it. But, you know, like a rock revetment is essentially a bulkheading. It's a type of bulkheading. It's a type of shoring up the coast. So it should be treated in the same fashion. You know, you have to understand, like, it's part of the request is if I'm gonna put a bulkhead in, I'm gonna have to backfill the bulkhead. If I'm gonna put in a rock revetment, I'm gonna have to do some grading in order to make it all work. It's just kind of part of the application. And, you know, a dock and a bulkhead permit by their very nature are wetlands applications because they're always gonna happen in the wetlands area. So it seems okay to make them separate and distinct.
And to first go to the building department, oh, sorry,
Yeah, and have the
No, no,
building
go ahead.
department say, you are a dock, you are a wetland.
Yeah, exactly.
So Stephen, you could put in defining situations where it would have to be reviewed?
Yeah, so I think we're clear on the dock side, that if it's if it's attached to the dock, the walkway is covered under this review.
Right.
And then we'll just, on the wetland side, we'll make it crystal clear that if the walkway, if you want to build a walkway through the wetlands and you want to attach it to a dock where it didn't previously exist, you're going to need wetlands. Or if you want to build a walkway and it's not attached to the dock, you're going to need wetlands. So we can clear that up on the wetland side.
Okay,
I just think if we're going to do this the right way, that's why I suggested the CAC to have some expertise, because WMAC, they're great at the construction of docks and, wave action, all that stuff. I'm not sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they have the expertise in wetlands, disturbance and things like that. So you may want, like I said, to have the CAC involved, or we have an environmental analyst now to involve them in the review of that area. So one of the two, I think, should be included here if we're going to totally get rid of wetlands review.
Okay,
Yes,
so you need to draft this and then we can take a look at this.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. I don't even know if CAC needs to get involved if the environmental analyst is going to look at it.
Well, we should
Yeah, no,
decide
that's what
one
I'm
or the
saying.
other.
I would say
Cheaper.
either or.
One's
It is
cheaper
cheaper
than
to
the
use the CAC. That is a good point.
Credentials.
All right, so yeah, I think they need to either be separate or we need to have one application for everything. So it's gotta be one or the other. But then we have to blend the codes, so that's a whole nother monster.
Yeah, that's whole, and we actually already have the system for
Yeah, we have
the
it,
non-letter.
yeah, it's pretty established. All right, so that was my other one, and then let's see, I have more. Of course I have more.
Just while you're
Yeah,
looking,
go for
I
it.
just wanted to go back to, because I've been rereading notes, the part 53-6 where we talk about permit issuance in terms.
what page is that in? 53, oh, the
Yeah,
same thing.
53-6, yeah, where we were saying we were gonna add or the dock inspector, either
Yes.
or dock
Mhm.
inspector. Do we want to put that on? I mean, if I'm looking at it, like, I can pay somebody to do this, or I can get free services from the town. Also, are we taking on any liability by putting this on the dock inspector?
Yeah, during a property transfer,
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, we do it when
No,
we're doing.
but they have to issue the certificate of compliance anyway, the dock inspector. So they're the final.
So they have to
Determine.
review it for an updated CFO on property transfer anyway, is what you're saying?
No, at the end of the day, you build a dock, once it's constructed, the building department comes out and gives a certificate of
That's all.
completion or compliance
saying that-
on the dock. So we're already under that liability. So I think
Okay.
they're equipped to,
Okay.
Okay,
So you're saying that if they have a choice, they're going to take the free choice.
I would take the free choice.
I mean, it's one thing if they're planning on changing the dock anyway, they might have the guy come out and look at it and say, what can I do with this? Is it in good
Yeah.
condition? You might have it evaluated in that sense, but
I just,
it's good to have the option.
okay, I just wanted to throw that in there as a concern.
All right, in that same section, I guess, if you just pop down to J, just within notice. That's new, right? We never used to notice people
It is
within
new.
200 feet.
Yes.
Is it necessary?
I think it's a good thing. I think a dock is a structure within a neighborhood, and there's implications or concerns about erosion, downhill, uphill, whatever. So I think the neighbors should be notified. I don't think that's a bad thing. It's a big structure that's going to impact.
Yeah, I mean, I sort
Over
of,
time.
I'm like on the fence with this, because like, if you go for a building permit, and I think of like Dottage Road, they went for a building permit, huge structure. There was no notice that needed to go to
Yeah,
anybody,
you have to
because it was
notify your
just a
neighbors.
regular building permit, so if it's a regular dock permit. But. I'm
But this has a public hearing component.
Yes,
Building,
but- Yeah, and I'm
permits
also, Yeah, and I'm also thinking in terms of the, like, some people, we've looked at applications where they've tried to push it as far over into
To the property
the
line,
very,
yeah.
the property line, because they don't want to be looking at the dock in the middle of their, but that's okay to push it closer to the neighbor. So I'm like, that's why I'm like, which way to
Their own
go?
dock. They don't want to even hit their own dock.
Right, yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
a little bit like, it's a good thing.
And it's also, we've had some controversial dock applications where, community members use that body of water to swim and whatnot,
Mhm.
and had issues with the dock being built there. So that's why, because normally I would say, all right, just at least the adjoining neighbors need to
Right.
get notified. But I think the 200 is reasonable when you have people that, again, this is a town asset, the water, and it's going to be changed, and, people in the surrounding community might use that body of water frequently.
I think it's okay.
Yeah, it just came out so bad.
Mhm.
Um, My other one was, boat lifts at private docks are prohibited.
On
I
inland waters. I
think,
think it's just on inland waters.
nope, it
I
says
think it's
design and
on
construction of private and commercial docks.
What section is it?
It's it's on page 11. Bottom of 11. I mean, that just, I think people should be, it just seems like a personal opinion instead of I think people should be able to apply for them.
If we put it in here as prohibited, I mean, we still have the waiver section, so they can always appeal it. There've been none, the comment made was none have been granted on inland waters.
I think this to a degree, got away from the WMAC, the boat lifts. Once somebody has one, kind of ties in with unsuitable locations, actually. But once somebody has a boat lift, it's like, well, he has it. And this is kind of eliminates that ability.
They're incredibly unsightly, and they block other people's because they're so high.
Yeah.
They're kind of obnoxious.
I think leaving it in, I mean, they can always apply for a variance, but.
Yeah. I'm
So
okay
there
with
is
that.
a,
Yeah. Last night, we approved the repair replacement of the boat lift. That was one of the resolutions last night.
They didn't get the work done.
Yeah, it was an extension.
yeah, I was gonna say that was an extension.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like there are existing docks and areas that may want to add a boat lift, and to come out of the gate as a prohibition just doesn't seem necessary. For 5316 on page 10. 5316D, the addition of aesthetics is just very subjective. So like, is there a criteria for it? Is there, that's just another ruling based on opinion. And then same thing with right below it, E, whether a mooring is more suitable alternative to a dock as a means of access to navigable water. Once again, is there a criteria for that, or is it just an opinion? I think those are things that should be better defined. Or, I mean, I don't even think you need aesthetics in there, but it was one of those came up.
What was your issue? I'm sorry, with E?
I think that just allowing the board to just deny something based on aesthetics, because someone just doesn't like the way it looks, is too subjective. Maybe there should be better criteria for it. And then the other one is for E, imposing it's under the heading of town board imposed restrictions. Making a judgment on whether a mooring is a more suitable alternative to a dock as a means to access navigable waters. Is there a criteria for making that determination, or is it just an opinion? I mean, really what you're ruling here is whether or not a dock is appropriate. Whether you think a mooring is more appropriate is kind of a moot point. It's whether or not the dock that they're applying for is appropriate. So
Sometimes they go through a lot of wetlands, sometimes it's so shallow all the way out, it's past 100 feet.
yeah, but then it's not your job to say, you know what, you should just apply for a mooring instead. It's your job to just be like, you know what, this dock is inappropriate. It's not gonna work here, so we're gonna deny your dock, figure out how you wanna handle your boat.
And B covered some of what you just said, shoreline protection, erosion, preservation.
But this is an effort to give them some access when they're, by saying it can be a mooring is a protection of the riparian rights.
Well, yeah, but then they still have to go through that whole other process of now we have to apply for a mooring. So that's by,
Do they have the, if you apply for a dock, get denied, and they say you should have a mooring, you have to apply again, or
yes,
they'll just give
yes,
you
you
one?
have to go through the mooring application process.
Yeah,
So,
but you're basically entitled to one and you get priority on waiting list as a riparian.
well, that you
Right.
just made up.
Yeah.
That's brand new, Stephen. Is this their determination?
Part of
Well,
the,
I thought,
Riparians on
That's-
waiting.
that is
Well, yeah,
riparian rights.
yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
saying not
Yeah.
because you got denied a dock, you automatically go to the top of the list. It's just because you have a riparian right to access the water.
No, that's
that
what
you
I'm
get a
saying.
mooring.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. They automatically, in essence, they would automatically get one because they're entitled to one as a riparian waterfront property owner. And then if there's not one that's available, then they get top of the priority on the waiting list.
That also depends on how many moorings they already have, and, you know, there's a whole bunch of criteria to that, so I don't know that
Yeah, so I have no issue
in the
from
dock
draft
application.
side to take out aesthetics because you have scenic vistas,
Yeah,
and then take out easement.
sure, take out aesthetics. The other one, I'd leave it alone.
And it's just a consideration. It's not like determinative. Like, because obviously a mooring is always an alternative, right? So
Right.
it's a consideration by the town board, one, if they want to deny a dock. And also this is in the same list of criteria if you want to impose conditions.
I would take E out.
yeah, I don't think E should be in there because,
A homeowner is never going to think that a mooring is more suitable to a dock if they want it.
What was that, Amber?
A homeowner's never going to think that a mooring is a more suitable, is more suitable alternative to a dock. If they want a dock, they want a dock. And if they can't have a dock in front of their house, they're probably not going to be able to have a mooring in front of their house either. Because if we're looking at wind conditions, yield press, where they are in the channel of boat traffic. The mooring is always the alternative if the dock is denied.
and I wouldn't want the ruling to be, no, a mooring is more appropriate for you, but maybe that person's already maxed out on their mooring. So now are we telling them they can have another mooring even though they're already meeting their, there's,
Plenty of people in this town have two moorings.
I know that, that's what I'm saying. There are people who have more than two moorings. So I feel like it just muddies things. It could just make a mess.
I think there's enough in A through D.
Right. That was my thought.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Because the mooring application process is a completely separate process.
I think it might have been the last.
All right, I had one more.
I only gave you that one because I said it was the last one.
I never said it was my last one, it was her
That
last
was my last one, all the comments from that day.
And so then the other one I had was actually from Mr. Bennett, who came in and mentioned like a grandfathering clause of permit or applications that are already in the works. Because it takes like a year, sometimes 2 years, 3 years to get through the DEC. So if you have someone who's already started that and is significantly through that process on an application, is there a way for us to put some kind of grandfathering in that they can still come in with that application, even if it doesn't necessarily meet all the new code requirements?
Is that part of the resolution, Stephen?
I added it in as applicability, where it says, this proposed local law shall not apply to any application which was made and is pending or in the approval process as of the date a resolution was approved authorizing the local law to be noticed for a hearing, or something to that extent, so the public who has already been significantly in the works doesn't have to go completely back to the drawing
Where
board.
you are,
Do
but
we have any of that?
Yeah,
It's just something I
Oh,
wrote
you
in.
wrote up?
Yeah,
All right.
it was in the packet that Bennett gave us at the public hearing. It was an example from Southampton's subdivision code rewrite. In their applicability section, it gave that wiggle room for people who had already made significant progress in their application to be reviewed under the old code. So I don't know how we want to handle it, but is it something that we
Do we-
consider?
don't we put that in resolutions? That
It would have to
we
be.
pass a resolution, we kind of say that any applications that are in process are,
No, because we
No?
did a moratorium, so then all applications
Yeah,
ceased.
just-
okay.
We don't have any.
No, we
We
have,
do,
7 of them
yeah, we do.
sitting on my desk.
They do have the waiver section
Mm-hmm.
that they can apply under. So they have a form of redress.
you were just
I'm
reading
not
that.
sure we need to do this. How does it apply to Bennett specifically?
I mean, the idea of rewriting this code was to tighten it up
Yes, I mean,
and
that's.
declare a moratorium to
Yeah.
tighten this up and then go back. So we're
I
kind
mean,
of
that's
countermanding the whole effort then.
And it's not like anyone's out in the cold because they can still apply and ask for a waiver.
Self-applicability. Yeah.
I just know that with other things, we've gotten into trouble when we just say, and it starts now. And then people are like, hold on, I was already here and you just back murdered me while you finish this. That's kind of a,
But here, though, we do have a waiver provision. They can still apply and ask for a waiver, and we can consider it. They're not shut out. So, not sure it fully applies, but
well, I think most codes have a waiver provision. It's just kind of like a relief valve that all codes kind of
And they should.
have.
How many applications do we have pending
7,
that would be impacted by the new law? So
yeah. Potentially, yeah.
But we purposefully did a moratorium to stop the influx of applications.
I think those had been received prior to the moratorium being started.
I don't know, this
I would have
doesn't,
to look.
doesn't feel
It
right.
was like right at the same.
We should just consider them under the new law. If they need a waiver, they should ask for a waiver.
Kind of leaning in that direction, just because thinking about other, code changes that we might make. Maybe. My only thought, like, there is the DEC component,
Right.
sending somebody back to the drawing board on DEC. Like, I don't
That is
really care
painful.
about,
It's a long.
like, our town code, I'm thinking more in terms of, like, we can apply our rules, but DEC process.
Well, the good DEC said, I'm gonna build a dock, and I'm not
Did these-
sure changing the code is gonna affect their DEC application.
Did these, okay, no, I'm sorry, Ben.
No, go ahead, Albert.
Did these 7 applications come in after we declared a moratorium?
No. It's
They all came in before we
not
declared?
all, but some did. I'll have to go back and check and I can do that.
Okay, maybe we can delineate at least those.
But, I know some came after, some came before, some came right as we're passing. So there's a mix,
All right.
but a lot of them will be affected.
I mean, that might be a way to kind of delineate how we handle it.
And also, were any in unsuitable locations that are now deemed unsuitable?
According to proposed, yeah.
But we have a waiver provision.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure we're sending them back to the beginning.
Right, yeah. I
I
mean,
don't think that's happening.
It's just the DEC, as Amber said, is where they would get the most
Just go
injection
back
of the language.
Revised approval.
So if they're in the DEC process and we change the law, I don't know.
It wouldn't like, it wouldn't necessarily affect whether or not the DEC approves a permit. I don't believe that's what you're saying. I think that the DEC is going to approve it based on the DEC's rules and regulations.
but if we,
Yeah,
But it's the,
if we
it's the
make them
thing,
move it or change it, like.
right, they
what's-
might have gone into the DEC with a different design based on the new code. And so us kind of moving the goalpost in the middle of the application process, now they may have to resubmit to the DEC with a different design, and maybe they would have done that initially.
That's for the new code changes. I don't know.
If you can pull together that list, so
Yeah.
at least we understand what we're dealing with.
Fair enough. We'll have a look at that.
It just seems prudent to put some kind of buffer zone into the transition.
How does it affect Bennett specifically?
I have no idea. I don't know what his application was. But I just know for other things, it's
So
been
he
a good
was-
idea to have a rollout period.
He was representing one specific owner. Fagan.
Oh, that one. Got it. Well, might be intensive Blair.
Yes, it is. It's on the outside of that one?
Gotta
It's
look
on
the
the
inside.
inside.
Let's look at the 7, see what
Yes,
we got.
exactly, yeah.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
just something I wanted to put out there for consideration.
Yeah.
You said that was the last one.
He's gonna hold you to it.
I'm a woman of my word. That was my last one.
All right, so Stephen, you have some drafting to do. Amber
We
will
also
get-
want to get that information.
From
No,
Amber?
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, we just want to get information from Amber.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm?
I took notes and redlined my version, Stephen, so I can send it to you.
That'd be great.
So as far as open items, we just have the supermajority or majority, an open
Yeah.
item,
Oh, yeah.
and then,
You come back to it.
yeah, I mean, we can come back to it when we review the draft. And then also, once we look at,
Amber's
You know.
list.
yeah, Amber's list, and then also if we're gonna pull in CAC or the environmental consultant.
I'm thinking environmental consultant, because we could pass the cost along to the applicant if you, so it wouldn't be a charge to the town per se.
Mhm.
And then we've also had issues with quorums and things like that. The
Well, we
CAC.
have another, a new appointment to the CAC, so hopefully that'll help with their attendance. They have an additional person, it might be easier to get a quorum.
So is there a direction for my drafting? Do we want to go environmental consultant or do we want to do CAC?
Why don't we do an either or?
I think that I would go environmental consultant.
Other two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Against CAC, but just, we have lead expertise.
Okay,
Okay,
not good, done.
not done, but
Kind of
Almost.
done.
Proceeding.
Moving
okay,
forward.
all right. Water advisory mission statement. So WAC liaisons, what did, if anything, did WAC do with this? Did they take back the mission statement that they had drafted? You had done some edits. Were those
Yeah.
considered?
I'm not a liaison, but
I mean, I remember one member of the committee kind of said he thought it was fine, what you had presented, Ben. I don't want to speak for the committee, but I know he kind of was saying, that's fine, whatever. Seemingly didn't have an issue with it. That was just one member, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were going to continue, really, if they were going to continue to develop it all and work on it.
Yeah, it wasn't a solid direction at the
Yeah.
end, but I thought that for the most part, they were okay with it, but they were gonna take it back and just look at it one more time.
One more
to
time.
Make sure they didn't have any additional comments.
Okay.
we should wait for their input again. But
I see the chairman, Peter Grant, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. No, so that is correct. I would characterize the sense of the entire meeting as inclined to accept Ben's recommendations and actually to thank Ben for his attention to detail on our mission statement. There was we had to, in the previous meeting, review the ground and surface water management plan, which is a living document that we certainly intend to spend some further time refining, clarifying, updating, right-sizing. But we were completely happy to separate that from the discussion of this particular mission statement. So there's no need to reference that in the mission statement. Additionally, all of the intent of Ben's comments were actually, we completely agree with, which is to use the highest quality consulting expertise, studies, data that we possibly can, and to provide them in an unvarnished format to you guys. We basically said, Andrew's comment, Andrew had been the original drafter, and he had said, I would be inclined to just hit accept revisions, accept all revisions. And all we said was that we should do that, all look at it, and with the one concern that we just want to make sure that we're not restricted in performing our fundamental mission, which is advising, as the Water Advisory Committee, the town and the community, on such things like every homeowner needs to be, who has a private well, needs to be testing their water and understanding that it can change, so testing it regularly. So we will just want to make sure that we're able to continue to provide advice, synthesizing all that expert opinion. And so we might have, words do matter. So we might have 1 or 2 little line corrections by the next meeting. But the charge was for Andrew to collect up information, reactions from all of the members to accepting the changes as is. And if there was very, very fine tuning suggestions that we wanted to make back, we will provide that at our next meeting.
Okay, perfect. Okay. When is your next meeting?
Good question. Let's take a look at the schedule. But it's after, in 2 weeks, I believe.
The November 18th,
Yep, November 18th.
so they could get it to us before the 19th, when it works.
I was going to say November 19th, I could put it on the agenda.
Yeah, so this should be a much simpler conversation than the one you guys just had. We're really pretty much all on the same page.
Okay. Putting it on now so that I don't forget. Okay, thank you. All right. Next topic, discussion about using saltwater intrusion money for water testing in Montclair and Silver Beach areas. So this came up during our budget conversations because we've got 20,000 in the existing budget that was designated, well, actually, it was designated, Shelby, not me, went through and looked at where that budget line came from. So for 2024, in 2023, money was put into the budget for saltwater intrusion. And the understanding is we thought we were entering into a contract or proposal with USGS for saltwater intrusion study. So that money was rolled over from, it was encumbered from 2023 into 2024. So we didn't actually put the money into the budget. We rolled it over via journal entry because it was unspent in 2023. And we thought that there was actually a contract. But it turns out, and Peter, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we had something from 2018 from Frederick Stoom and Michael Como, delineation of the saltwater freshwater interface for Shelter Island.
Well, I mean, I don't know that there's a correction, except that in 2023, what we were requesting was money for to study saltwater intrusion, essentially to study the greatest concerns in the nearshore and peninsular areas. That was a balancing act, a balancing move, because we were already in motion on studying the town center. And so we felt that we needed equal attention to the problems of both septic contamination and saltwater intrusion. At no point did in 2018, we actually did a study with the United States Geological Survey, which was an electromagnetic study of saltwater boundaries. It was interesting, certainly very interesting on a scientific level. I think that they can do better and refine that study. I'd like to ask Joe rather than myself Joe is the person who advised as we began 8 months ago to take up the question of how a saltwater study or a nearshore area study should be done. Joe is the person who advised that the more effective and cost-effective approach and also more bang for the buck might come from using Suffolk County Health Department instead. So in any case, I really should turn it over to Joe.
Yes, Joe, please.
I would add that the budget request for the 2023 allocation was not necessarily for the USGS study that we're referencing from 2018. It was a request in response to the efforts made for center nitrogen testing and a pivot to address concerns from the community in those nearshore areas for saltwater issues. This was supposed to be a complementary effort such that all members of the community felt their water quality issues were being examined. So I want to make that point clear because I think that changes the discussion a little bit. The $20,000 request was not specifically for a USGS study of saltwater intrusion. We have that proposal from 2018. It's my understanding that that's not even necessarily valid, nor was it valid when we considered the request in 2023. That said, the reason the saltwater intrusion testing effort developed into Suffolk County Health Department sponsored well testing was because our efforts in the center were through private well testing from a private company where we paid about $100 for nitrate testing only. And there was a recommendation both by my office and also from the Suffolk County Health Department that we use their laboratory to provide a full panel potability test where we would be able to see chloride levels, but also at no additional cost, a participating resident would see test results for the 200 some odd contaminants that they include in their test panel. So it was a pivot from using a private laboratory and test collecting agency like we did from the center, and for the same cost, we would get that chloride data, but it would also include other potability and contaminant information as well. So that was the that was sort of the evolution of the testing program. I can't speak to the mechanics of how the funds could be allocated, but that's, I think, the juncture of where we're looking for input from the town board now as to that $20,000 budget item.
Thank you. So I guess the question is, I mean, if I was looking at it, it was going to be a budget transfer from saltwater intrusion to water testing, which we have 5,000 in the budget, but that does require board approval to do a budget transfer. And so how do we, which direction do we want to go? You'd start to bring something up, Albert, at the budget meeting, doing a USGS saltwater intrusion study versus doing.
Well, that's what, I mean, the original $20,000 was appropriated for, right? A continuation, a follow-up to the USGS saltwater intrusion study.
Well, that's what Joe was just saying, that it's not necessarily, like, that was my take on that, was that it wasn't necessarily for USGS, it was for saltwater testing. But
I think that's the intention of it was. I wasn't here on the board then, but I think that was the intention, to follow up with the USGS study.
It does seem to make sense.
I mean, did we get good information from that study? I actually haven't been able to.
Yeah, no, the information, at the time, the information was faulted as being too general to be really actionable and useful. I believe that the USGS could do a better job now. I think that the technology has advanced, and I actually would be very interested in that particular study, except that I think that from the point of view of protecting the public health, what we're also seeing is that people are turning in their Suffolk County Health Department studies to us voluntarily, and we're seeing that there are concerns with PFOS and PFOS in certain cases. It's an individual home by home thing. The question, I mean, the fundamental issue, and this is the same thing in the previous question, the mission statement we were just discussing was about potable water. And so potable water, the most direct way to measure, do you have chlorides that are making your water non-potable or anything else making your water non-potable? The way to do that is to test right at the well or at the drinking water tap. So in terms of focused, effective, doing what the actual task is, which is seeing, do we have saltwater intrusion at these wells and any other kinds of intrusions? This is by far the biggest bang for the town's dollar.
These tests cost $100 each. And
It's a
how many are we
comprehensive-
talking about?
So it would be able to do 250 if we take the water testing line of 5,000 plus the 20,000.
We took the 5,000 out and left the 20.
Pardon?
I thought we took the 5,000 out and left the 20.
And also, I just should add that the idea was to start in Menantic and in Silver Beach because they probably have the greatest concerns. We're seeing now some concerns at Hay Beach as well. The intent was always that this would be all of the nearshore communities, especially those that are impacted in some fashion. It's not exclusively Menantic and Silver Beach where we're concerned about saltwater intrusion, sea level rise, and chlorides.
The committee talked about doing it as like a rebate, so the applicant would apply to the Suffolk County Department of Health, have their water tested, pay for the water test, and then bring us a receipt and a copy of their water test, and then they would essentially get reimbursed their $100. That way, we get the data, but we're not trying to coordinate it and organize it all with the health department and that whole headache. So it's up to the homeowners to take the initiative to go and get their water tested, knowing that they can come back for a rebate of $100. Is kind of the structure that the committee was talking about using in this round.
We're talking about, because you were just saying something about picking up a 5,000.
Right.
In the 2024 budget, which is the money that we're looking to spend right now, is 5,000 is in water testing, hasn't been used yet, and there's still 20,000 in saltwater intrusion line.
Yeah.
Budget transfer.
Right, because I was thinking the 2025 budget,
Yes.
where we
yeah,
did
that's-
take that.
Yes, so I think we got rid of the 5,000 in the water
Yeah.
testing line in the budget for 2025.
And
And
we
we
did roll
rolled
the 20 as
over 20. So if we use it in this year, that rolled over money will not, we have to take it out or fund it differently.
How did we pay for the water testing in the center?
That was WQI funding, but Al had raised some objections to using WQI money for water quality testing. I think that that's still valid, but we're still awaiting Stephen's opinion on that. The WQI law has changed a bit, so Stephen will have to let us know whether it's valid to use WQI funding for that. But again, we had, very specifically in these last 2 years, made sure that we kept a line item for saltwater intrusion testing, which is essentially chloride testing.
And this will be limited just to Silver Beach and
Montclair.
Montclair?
Well, initially,
Manatee.
the idea was to use the homeowners associations to do a lot of the legwork and to reach out to the communities. But at all times, I've always advocated, and I think that the committee has said that's just our starting point. Maybe we'll get 50 done in Menantic, and I don't know if we'll get that many, but and the 75 done in Silver Beach, and then we would still have the ability to get to Hay Beach and South Ferry Hills and other areas where this would be relevant as well.
Why not open it up to anyone on Shelter Island? that wants
It's
to
just a
water
question of procedure and organization. Yes, I would favor that proposal. Because we don't have the personnel to go out, talk to everybody, but we do have the homeowners associations coming to us. Both the Silver Beach and the Menantic Peninsula Homeowners Association presidents have participated in these talks. Actually, the former and current Homeowners Association president for Menantic Peninsula. We have the community helping us, and to make this happen, we just have to set up the structure correctly so that it can get going. And really, we're eager to say, this is now. There's no real reason to delay.
Where I'm stuck is if you do this and I want my water tested, I don't live in Silver Beach or Montclair Colony, and you're going to say no?
Everybody has the ability to pay for a test for themselves for $100.
No, I'm talking about rebate. Get the rebate.
Yeah, I'm open to why, opening this up to everybody. We would have, again, 250 tests available that we could.
You can focus your outreach to these neighborhoods, Silver Beach and Montclair Colony, but if
Yeah,
someone
I agree with you, Ben.
goes up with a water test and a receipt from Ram Island, I don't know how you say no.
Well, we would like them to sign up ahead of time so that they're committing to sharing their data with us. So we'd like them to
Okay.
sign up to get the rebate.
Totally fair enough.
But I would not want to say no to people either.
What I want to ask is, what are we trying to accomplish? So if we're trying to figure out whether, like, what kind of a problem we have in the Menantic Peninsula area and Silver Beach, we want it to be a focused approach.
Right.
If we open it up island-wide, we end up with scattershot because we can't afford for everybody to do it.
Right.
And so then what are we going to be able to do with that data?
You get a better picture of the water quality in a specific area if you have a high concentration of testing from that one specific area. And it's easier to do that if you're just targeting very specific areas at a time. If you open it up island-wide, you're not going to get enough concentration in any specific area to get a solid
Yeah,
picture. You're just
obviously,
going to amass a lot of data.
What I'm saying is it's not fair.
Sometimes life isn't fair, but at the same time, we don't have unlimited funding for it. It would be nice to be able to do it for everybody. And if we can find a way to do that, that would be great. I don't know if we can set it up as a WQI program where people can come in for a $100 rebate for their water testing. That would be one way to look at it. If you think that's a valid use of the funds, or we have this 20,000, but that's part of the reality is, you can't just pay for everybody to have their water tested. So it has to be part of a focused program. Because we still need to then take that data and analyze it. Someone has to input it into an Excel spreadsheet or a program, or we need to figure out how to either get the data from the health department in a digital format, or we have to personally enter it into a format once we get
That
it.
actually should happen
There's a
automatically. We should get it.
process.
Wait, hold on a second, Peter.
There's a process that we're gonna have to establish and set up, so we need to figure out what the goals and objectives are. If it's just to amass data, that's all fun and good, but we need to have a purpose and an intention for it and a way to process and analyze it.
May I make-
You on this, Albert?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'll open up to the public after we're done at the table.
I'd like to go through this whole thing and give my personal opinion on it, where we're going. I think the town needs and deserves a thorough groundwater modeling from an independent expertise, a firm, whatever the case may be, to do a thorough groundwater modeling of the island, to really know what we have. And I think until we have that, I don't think, I'm not agreeable to proceed as we are. All right. And I go to the ground and surface water management plan. And they list out years and things that are to be implemented. Before they do that, I just took the words from it. The upper glacial aquifer has not been characterized to a level adequate for detailed decision-making, and groundwater flow modeling capability and results are even more limited. That was in 2020. They tout the 2014 Nelson Pope Voorhees report, which is 10 years old. The Suffolk County Subwatersheds Wastewater Plant, which was 2019. So they wrote this in the ground and surface water management plan that we don't have a thorough groundwater modeling effort, that we can't make detailed decision-making based on that. And then it goes on to say between 0 and 5 years, install public water supply and distribution systems to supply challenged areas. Is that what we're doing? Going to challenged areas to validate this ground and surface water management plan? 6 to 10 years, create a master plan for public water service to the remainder of Shelter Island. In 11 years, complete the build out of an island-wide public water system. Is that where we're going? We don't have a groundwater modeling effort. We don't have that information. We're proceeding down this road without that. How do we continue to do that? I don't understand. I don't think right now Suffolk County Water is the answer. I mean, they came into West Neck Water District. We signed a contract with them to run that district. That was Suffolk County Water's standard contract. We really don't have any protection from that. They can drill a well in any preserved property, any town-owned property that they see fit. We can't stop them. They can run a water main down to Montclair, down to Silver Beach. If they have 40% of the homeowners, they can run a line down there. And if it crosses in front of your house, you're going to have to tie into it. That's how they work. Is that where we need to go? Is that what we want? I think the first thing we need is a total groundwater modeling effort for Shelter Island to understand. Bring in a firm, characterize it, scope the issue, and make recommendations and the implications of those recommendations. And then take this away from the board, away from committees, and have public meetings in the community center, and have them explain what they found, and have the community thoroughly involved, because there's serious implications to having public water across Shelter Island. We all know what they are. Our zoning issues, our density. The previous supervisor wanted to set up transfer development unit rights from properties for development, but you need a public water system to do that. He was touting that maybe we could get 300 TDRs off of previous CPF purchases. You put those in a bank, they could be sold. That's the idea. Sell them to a developer. I'm not in favor of that. I want the people on Shelter Island to make a decision how we move forward on public water. We're talking now about putting a well. Oh, Suffolk County Water could drill a well in Satcham's Woods for free.
For what purpose?
And supply water to the municipal buildings. We have no control over that. We don't.
I disagree with that. If we use those federal funds to do that, then it's constrained to municipal.
Any board can undo that, Amber. Any town board can undo that. The town board signed an agreement with Suffolk County Water to turn over West Neck Water District. That can happen at any time.
One of the things I would counter with is Suffolk County Water Authority can come in and drop wells where, and try and, take care of challenged neighborhoods. We should be setting up water districts, mapping out the areas of Shelter Island so that we protect ourselves from Suffolk County water coming in. Like legislatively, that's.
Do we protect ourselves in West Neck Water District?
But the step before we do that is to do an island-wide study. This is
Yeah, I mean,
$25,000.
we need to know where the challenged
Yeah.
areas are. We've
Yeah.
got 2 challenged areas that anecdotally are telling us they're challenged. The testing would help us get a step closer. I was surprised when we did the center triangle that we did not, where things came out, we were in better shape, which was a nice surprise.
Very
So
nice surprise.
anecdotally, people have been saying, we've got bad water, we've got bad water. So we kind of,
Well, why don't we take the
dial that
25
down.
grand
yeah, I mean, I'm just tossing out
Yeah.
like
and put it
commentary here
towards
too.
doing the study that Alfred suggested? I mean, I'm sure it won't pay for the whole thing.
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say, I mean, we need
I don't
to
know how much they
understand,
cost.
we need to understand how much it's gonna cost and also exactly what is the product that we'd be getting
Hmm.
and what can we do with it? Which is why I started with, if we do this water testing, what are we gonna do? Like, what are we trying to accomplish? And that's why opening it up island-wide scattershot will not accomplish anything. I'm trying to focus on what's the problem we're trying to solve.
I think we need an island-wide study.
We've also-
We don't have the expertise in this town. We don't.
Bring in consultants. Mhm.
Let's give it to a firm and let them do a study, a groundwater model. It calls for it in the ground surface waterment plan.
Yeah, which you throw out in the comp plan, but now you're bringing in, just tossing that out there.
Well, because it goes on to define in wastewater treatment plan, it's public water.
So again, just the little.
I mean, we don't have the expertise, Amber, in the town to do this. I think we owe it to the people, the residents of Shelter Island, to have a full understanding of what we're doing and the ramifications of it, and involve them in this process. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so who do we work with in order to define what it is that we'd be requesting so that we can put an RFP out there to get this done?
The town has already conducted about 5 groundwater mapping and modeling studies throughout time. So I think if we pull all those together and look at them, we can see maybe what information we don't have.
Mhm.
But we do have a significant amount of information, hundreds of pages of information on our groundwater, on the direction of flow, on the depth and quality. It's just a matter of consolidating all of that into one place and seeing what additional information we need.
So who
If you want to hire an
who has
expert to
the
do that for us,
expertise to do
then
that?
fine.
Right.
Exactly.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
that's,
there
That's a
is
good starting point.
information available to us. It's just at this point, maybe it was done in 2005 and we haven't read it, or, it's,
I think we need current information back, that's all.
Excuse me.
A lot of it's anecdotal and a lot of it is old. We need current information from an independent expert.
not just yet, Peter.
Okay.
I mean, as far as doing an RFP, I mean, Meg makes a good point where we can pull in all this information we already have. Or hire someone to do that,
Mhm.
review
Yeah,
it.
we have to hire somebody to do that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and the WAC can, as the advisory committee
Mhm.
on this subject, can ride point on making that recommendation or helping write that RFP.
Mhm.
That's kind of what they're supposed to do.
Okay. Yeah, we need a direction.
I just think this is an enormous issue. It's bigger than anybody within the town here. We need expertise and we need to understand what we're doing and the ramifications going forward. Will have a tremendous impact on the island.
And a forever impact.
Amber.
In a minute. I just want to make sure we finish at the board level before.
Well, done.
Okay.
And I think, I hope I kind of made it clear where I stand, what I think we need
I
to
don't
do.
agree with all of your points, like bringing in
Yeah,
the TDRs that Jerry wanted to do.
Yeah, that's-
Jerry's no longer at the table. There's a
Yeah.
reason he's not at the table. So
Amber,
throw that away.
but you have public water, anybody can create TDR bank. Anybody that sits in that chair or sits in these
You
chairs.
still have to go through a referendum process. The public has to want it. You're just assuming that the public has no say. The public has to approve a referendum to have a DDR program. And in order to have a TDR program, there's a whole bunch of things that have to be in place.
We're getting a little distracted.
It's-
Yeah,
Get away from the
yeah,
TDR.
Yeah, that's,
Whatever, I'm just saying
The
that
main point is we need a,
any town board can do what they want here. Any town board can make decisions that affect things here.
and they're elected by the people. It's representative
Right.
government, so. if
There was a lot of people that were
want
very unhappy about that wastewater treatment plant. But that was moving forward at a rapid rate.
The what treatment plant?
The wastewater treatment plant.
Public wastewater, but yeah.
But
but the main
Not
point
digress.
is we have a lot of information. We need to select and hire a professional to review that, decide what else we need. WAC can help with an RFP to find that person
Mhm.
or that firm.
Yep.
And take the next step from there.
So we need to task them.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we should start by looking at what we have and seeing what we don't have. That can be part of the analysis for the RFP, for defining, or what we've done in the past that we think we should redo, so we have change over time kind of information.
Okay.
Because that can be helpful.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we should pull this all
And
together.
WAC can,
like,
WAC can do that.
Absolutely.
That's part of the task.
Try and start to work with.
And then figure out, and Joe can help them
Mhm.
come up with.
So we have different people who want to speak. I know John Davy was on the list. I know Peter had something he wanted to add. Anita had something. I'm just writing down some names.
This
I
one,
was gonna say Lisa.
only one we're missing is
Yeah.
Pam doesn't have her hand up. Just kidding, Pam. Just
When you
kidding.
said that,
Just kidding.
Sean maybe moves, I thought it was Pam, and I was like, huh.
Okay. All right, I'll start because Sean Davy ahead of time had
Thanks, Tom.
he wanted to speak. So I'll start with you, Sean.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's the best decision you ever made, but we'll go for it. So my name is Sean Davy. I'm a member of the Silver Beach Association and thus representing Silver Beach in that regard, regarding the funding of water testing. It's certainly helpful to speak after I've seen some of the back and forth here. I don't think we are very supportive of using the funds for testing. We don't think it's unfair not to open it to everybody. I think it's a prioritization. We know that the nearshore areas are the ones that are most vulnerable. And if we're moving incrementally over time, it makes sense to do that as the next step. It seems to me in the conversations here, and everything about water these days is all we do is talk past one another and that we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. The water modeling study I think it's a great idea. It would be lovely to see that. And I've been saying for a long time that lots of people have been talking about, let's get experts, let's get experts. And I've said, why don't you write something up about what information you are looking for rather than just say that? And that has never happened. And it's 2 years later or 3 years later, at this point. That groundwater study is likely, I suspect, not going to give you the same granularity as testing wells. They will ultimately go hand in hand. So starting one and working on a grander plan so that we have enough scientific information to understand the flows of water, the connectivity around the aquifer, and the level of contaminants at the same time is comprehensive. If we're going to be in a situation where anything that could possibly lead to an endpoint of a possibility of a communal water solution, and we're just going to shut that down because of all the fear, you are not serving the public well at that point. I am not supportive of welcoming in Suffolk County by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm intelligent enough and practical enough to know that that may very well be the only solution in some instances. Hopefully none, but potentially very few and smaller. And yes, maybe you have to relook at contracts so that we're not giving them too much room and all that, but you are putting the cart before the horse. We need information, and testing wells is very practical and, kind of comprehensive way to understand at least one level what's going on with under our water. Silver Beach is seeking the umbrella to get critical mass under a town-led effort so that we have some statistical significance. As you said, scattershotting is not going to be helpful. So concentrating the efforts in specific areas incrementally are what's going to make a difference. And without that critical mass in the town umbrella, we're not likely to get, enough people on board. It's just, the likely outcome. And we are going to push very, very hard for anyone who can afford the test on their own to actually pay up themselves and offer up their results. It's not just a free-for-all. And we're going to push hard for that. But the umbrella is what's going to help create the critical mass. I would just really ask that we learn to chew gum and walk at the same time. These are all complementary efforts, and we have to stop just distracting of if anybody hints at town water, we're shutting down the conversation. We know we have issues. Water is critical to our town. Let's begin to tackle the problem. It's going to be incrementally, and Suffolk County is not showing up at the door anytime in the next several years by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't think anybody's looking to do that. So let's have the intellectual fact-based conversation, get the studies you need, and move forward. But don't just talk about you want these studies, put it down on paper, put exactly what you want, and develop something so that it's not just a talking point. Silver Beach supports the use of these funds in the interim so that we can advance some discussion and some knowledge, and we hope that you will take a vote and reach a majority that allows these funds and that process to begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Peter, you had your hand up now.
Yeah, thank you. We're not having a conversation about public water. Nobody's having a conversation about island-wide public water. We're having a conversation about testing and testing in nearshore areas. So that's what we want to accomplish. In 2020, the Water Advisory Committee called for an island-wide hydrological model. And in 2021, the United States Geological Survey responded with a Long Island-wide hydrological model, including a hydrological model in 50 by 50 by 20 squares stacked as many as 5 deep of the entirety of Shelter Island, so that we do have a comprehensive hydrological solute flow model in place right now, since the time that the Grounded Surface Water Management Plan was written. So of course it couldn't have been included there. That very model was the one that Gordon quoted at the debates, saying that the water from the town center buildings was flowing down to Menantic Creek. Of course, the model also shows that the flow time is on the order of up to centuries. We're conservatively saying at least 30 years before that impacts Menantic Creek and that area. So we actually, and that was the basis for being able to do computer modeling. Those lines that that Gordon was referring to in the debate were generated by computer because we have right now in our hands a comprehensive hydrological flow model for Shelter Island. What we now need to fill in is the data points at the specific homes. And Sachem's Woods would be nice too, but it's again, just information. We're not planning a public water system.
Thank you, Peter. Anita? Yes.
To the podium,
Yeah,
please.
do we want to move the podium, Amber? Just so that way it's.
Yeah, now she's at least on a camera.
Just this.
There you go.
And then state your name for the record.
Anita Greenbaum Brush, and I'm the past president of the Menantic Peninsula Association. So I just want to make very clear that we are not advocating for Suffolk County Water Authority to come in to Menantic Peninsula or anywhere on Shelter Island. And I've had so many conversations with people about how the request for testing is a gateway. It's opening the gate for Suffolk County. That was never our intention. We have never discussed it within the Menantic Peninsula area. I am also in favor of either the 2021 testing that Peter is referencing or what Albert is referencing. I'm not opposed to other testing. The way this came about is that we have been discussing nitrates in the center for a long time, and I think it's a very valuable discussion that brought the discussion of water forward. Our thought was there's another problem, and that's saltwater intrusion on the periphery of the island. We know, or we think we know, that it exists in Menantic and Silver Beach, probably in other areas too. We are merely asking for testing to establish some set of data. I think it would be great to have a different study and see how it meshes with the existing or the future groundwater testing. We're not opposed to that. The Menantic Peninsula even had a discussion about paying for 50 tests out of our very meager funds so that we could bring this forward. The idea of involving the town is that the town has some authority. The town taking this on says this is an important issue and that we've been talking for years about getting homeowners to test their water. Howard Johansson has said it 100 times at 100 different meetings. But I think the way to get people to do it is for the town to take it up. And that's why we came to the town about 15 months ago asking for help. And this proposal grew out of that request for help. I agree with the previous speaker. I don't think that we are in conflict about any other testing. Perhaps there is a limited amount of funds, but this proposal is for testing that will surely improve the information that we have now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, I had Elise Horning.
Hi, guys. Elise Horning, resident of Montclair and board member. And I think Sean and Anita have done a very good job about letting us know what the importance of this is to us. My current, right now, I wish to incentivize our neighbors and to be more aware of what their well water status is. I think this is what Anita was saying. We were talking about using our own funds to get that done. I think we've started to initiate a little wave of people's interest in this, but as Anita says, it would be helpful for the town to back us up as well. Collection of the testing would allow us to start to calculate our challenges in the fragile areas, to put some numbers on the books. I'm not inclined to wait for a more formal process. We have to move ahead now and be proactive instead of waiting. Montclair Colony, as well as Silver Beach, already have people that are testing, have done so, are doing so now, and sharing the information. And that'll assist going forward in the future if we decide that a larger project is needed. But to sit on our hands now is a waste of time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Lisa. Lisa, you were next.
Lisa Shaw, I think that Elise just touched on something that is getting lost in this conversation, which is that what testing accomplishes right now is that people get to see a real-time look at what they are drinking. And then with those test results, they can choose to mitigate. A long-term test, great, that's fine. However, that doesn't help people in the moment make a decision. Do I want to keep drinking this water that is testing high for chlorides, nitrates, PFOs, PCPs, whatever? And I think we need to be really cognizant of giving homeowners the opportunity to mitigate right now what they're drinking, not a year or 2 years down the line whenever we get this long-range testing done or started. I mean, not that it's a bad idea, but we have an obligation to people right now. And I can't for the life of me really understand why we wouldn't want to do this. I just don't really get why you would put a stop to water testing. It's going to give you real-time data. There's nothing more comprehensive, more real than that. Thank you.
Don, you were next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm trying to start the video, but it doesn't allow me. Okay, I guess whoever is controlling this, maybe you could start the video. Oh, okay.
And just state your name for the record.
Jan Sudo, resident of Shelter Island. So I have some remarks which are my own. Okay, so not everybody is going to agree with them, but this is my opinion. First of all, I would like to directly, immediately disagree with what Lisa Shaw said, that we have a responsibility for testing and the water quality and so forth. This is incorrect. For private well water, the responsibility for testing and filtration of this water, if necessary, per Suffolk County Department of Health Services, rests with the homeowner, okay? So the town has no obligation of any sort to do anything about it, okay? Not to mention that we don't have any evidence of widespread contamination in significant levels above EPA anywhere on the island, okay? Let me move on to the beginning of my speech. Basically, I'm going to have a different perspective on it, how this idea for testing for saltwater intrusion started. No, I have not heard anybody talking about it until the results of the testing of the well water in the Certner came out, and it turned out that only 6 wells which had the nitrate pollution which exceeded EPA level came out. Okay, so our supervisor herself said that the test results in the center were much better than expected. Okay, so we don't have a widespread problem in a center. We only have 6 wells that failed EPA level of 10 milligrams per liter of nitrate content. Okay, the other wells which had elevated nitrates, Suffolk County Water Authority would do nothing about it, because if they see the water has content between 5 and 10 milligrams per liter of nitrates, they'll say it's perfectly potable water. As a matter of fact, Lisa Shaw can testify to this, that her own water in West Neck Water District tests between 2.5 and 6.5 milligrams per liter of nitrate content. And I don't think Suffolk County Water Authority is doing anything about it because per EPA standard, it's potable water. So basically, Suffolk County Water Authority bringing public water to the center would do nothing to address public health concerns of elevated nitrates between 5 and 10 milligrams per liter. So when that fell through, that this is public health concern to be addressed in a center, then all of a sudden I hear about testing for saltwater intrusion in Menantic and Silver Beach. I'm not privy to details who initiated this, whether it was WAC casting to find a solution, a problem for prescribed solutions of public water, at least in certain areas of Shelter Island, or whether this was neighborhoods that requested this because, hey, center is getting free water tests, why not us? I don't know, and that's not really relevant. What I'm trying to say is, first of all, the testing for saltwater intrusion in Montclair or Menantic or Silver Beach is not likely to find widespread saltwater intrusion or other contaminants. I've talked to several of the water installers, the people that sell in-house water filtration systems. They said they don't have a single saltwater intrusion system on Shelter Island, okay? One of them told me there was 2 cases of salt water in the wells, on 2 wells on Ram Island, and this was fakes because the wells were not installed properly. It was just enough to raise the water pump higher because it was just installed too deep and was sucking salt water instead of fresh water from freshwater lands. So that's one point, okay? Second, owners of pricey waterfront homes in Menantic or Silver Beach should be able to afford $100 fee for Suffolk County Department of Health Services test and not looks to all Shelter Island taxpayers to pick up the fee, but test the water on their own initiative and costs. The town already has a problem of out-of-control increases of the annual budgets. Last year, we had 6.5% increase, if I understand. This year, the first proposal was 10+%. Now it looks like it's going to be 8%. It's still likely to be the highest increase of
7.2.
budget on the east end, okay? Let me move to other points. The homeowners in Montclair or Menantic and Silver Beach would not be even required to share the tests of the results of the test with the town. So what useful data would the town get for $20,000 of taxpayers' money? At most, some people probably would share it in exchange for refunding the fee, but we're gonna get scattering of data.
The requirement is that they have to share
which
it.
is not gonna be very useful, okay? Just like the testing in a center was useful in a sense that it confirmed that the water problem is not that critical in there, but, you know, in terms of actionability of this data scattered all over the center wasn't very high. I'm sorry, somebody wanted to say something?
The requirement is that in order to get the rebate, they must turn in the water test.
Okay, that's great. So some people will turn over to get their $100 back, but a lot of people will not share it. So what's the point, okay? I think testing of the water is great, and I think everybody should do the test water. I did this test water myself last year. If the town decides to spend $20,000, I would like to sign up for the free test, okay? Now, there's another aspect that the town board should consider. The funding of the cost of water tests by the town might cause unintended consequence of acquiring an obligation to provide costly and mediocre quality public water. The legal ramifications of funding water tests unknown and pose risk to the town. I think this should be studied because right now, the owners of private properties which have septic systems and water wells, they are responsible for testing and fixing their own water if the water needs to be fixed. And I would like to point out that majority of wells, dominant majority of wells on Salt Island have pretty good water. And in majority of cases, the quality of that water is higher than what Suffolk County Water Authority distributes to customers in North and South Fork. I mean, it's just enough to go to SCWA website and look up their water quality results for various systems they have. And determine that, well, we actually have better water than in most cases than what Suffolk County Water Authority distributes, okay? There's alternative solutions for the few houses that have marginal waters, I mean, water with elevated nitrates, PFOS, PFOA, or whatnot. It's called in-house water filtration, which is widely used on the island. Varies from very simple systems for $2,000 to more involved, more sophisticated systems, which may cost as much as $8,000. But this is a fraction of the cost of bringing public water. And the owner of the house has total control over quality of that water. It depends how much money you want to spend and how problematic is your water, but you have total control. In contrast, the people who are customers of public water have no control over the water. They get what Suffolk County Water Authority distributes. If they don't like it, they can install in-house water filtration to filter public water. What's the point of that? Okay. So basically, this is what I want to say, that the conclusion of my speech is that I'm objecting to spending $20,000 of Salt Island taxpayers' money to fund this random testing. I'd rather be inclined to have the hydrological study of the whole island that Councilman Dixon was talking about, and do this in systematic way to see how big a problem we have and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one question for you. If you are advocating that the owner is responsible for their own drinking water, but you're saying it's okay to do an island-wide water study, what's the difference? Like, why should we spend the money on that? I'm just curious because it seems to be in conflict in my mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we need to know, there was some studies done in the past. They're probably by now obsolete. So probably some studies should be done to see if the island has a problem or not at all. Okay, and also then interpretation of this data should be done by specialized consultants or specialists who deal with this. It shouldn't be left to the Water Advisory Council, which, with all due respect to the time they spent on those issues, they don't have the qualifications that need to be, the town needs to have in order to evaluate the data, draw conclusions from it, and present tangible water strategy for the island. So I think it would be useful. I don't necessarily think we have a big problem, in any areas that couldn't be solved locally, but, hey, this is me. I'm not a hydrologist. Just to make sure that we don't have that problem, it would be good to commission a study if this is not overly expensive or time-consuming.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the physical audience who wishes to speak on this? Gordon?
My name is Gordon Goody. I really didn't expect to speak, okay, but what's so apparent here, I think what we're really missing is that no one is against anyone no one is trying to avoid having bad water. I think everybody is in agreement that we want good drinking water, okay? We have two particular positions here, okay? One is the fear of public water, and the testing, I don't think is really the issue. But I just made a couple of notes to myself. What I think it really boils down to is here we are, we're a group of residents, and we're trying to make serious decisions on something that is highly technical. Okay, and I think we really need an independent person to really evaluate it. We've had those people here. We've had, and we've heard the board talk about Dr. Chris Goldberg in terms of different water issues, but we really didn't handle him so well, okay? And all I'm suggesting is that we do need an independent, maybe a third party or somebody, a mediator, that can really look at these water issues and really come up with the solutions. We do have these problems, okay? It's not like we don't have them. I think what we have is we have a problem, okay? Everybody's locked into their position, okay? And I think someplace in between there, we need somebody who has the background that can just give us the data. Now, what that really is what a town engineer should be doing, is giving us the data. But we need, we're dealing with water, not structural engineering or that type of stuff. But I think we're really in the need of bringing this to a conclusion. I think enough time has been spent talking about it. But what is the hesitancy? There's a whole breakdown here in communication. There's a breakdown in terms of, bringing it, that people want their good water, they want their testing. I don't think anybody's really definitely against the testing part, but then who's going to evaluate it? Who do we have here in this room that can look at this data and say, hey, this is the right way to go? Anybody?
That's why I said, what are we going to do with the data once we get it? I agree. We need to understand what we do once we figure out what.
So the thing is, you need people to sit down at the table, maybe not in this forum, but in a different format, okay, where someone who's not, he's a professional engineer, okay, or a professional geohydrologist. We've been talking about it, we're talking about the money. Well, hell, it's costing money. It may even be costing lives because we're not doing anything about it. And we keep talking about safety. I'm sorry, that's also like looking, we accuse folks of looking for more data. Safety is another one of those little coin words that is a way of why we have to do this, okay? All I'm suggesting, okay, I think we really need to the board has to spend some time, and rather than the community be an odds side, people on this side, that side, we need somebody who is really neutral and can accept it. Myself personally, if we need the public water, I'm all in. The problem is that we're so slanted in two different sides, okay, and we can't come together, and we're not going to come together because everybody in this room is either on one side or the other. So we really need somebody to look at it in a neutral format, okay, that can really evaluate it and tell the public what they need. I think the other part is that it will ultimately, it's going to be a long time. I think it's going to be a long time before public water comes here, but I think we need to stop the debate. Let's get the information, but let's have somebody in a little bit more of a neutral position coming forward. I just think that's really what the problems have been. And it really has to deal with this whole, there's fear, there's transparency, there's all of this stuff, there's steering. I've been to all the meetings, and I think that's the problem we're having. We're here at a board, and even when we go to a committee meeting, everything is steered in one way or another. We need somebody that's going to give us the facts and let us as adults make decisions. Okay, that's what I think. Okay. There is no silver bullet. I mean, it's like we're thinking, well, if we get public water, oh boy, everything is all over. We still got the water. We only have one aquifer. So what are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about building? So if we do these things, does it eventually show that we shouldn't have certain building in certain parts of the island? I think it's very complicated, but I think we're trying to do it. We don't have it. I mean, we don't have that skill set, and I think we're just beating ourselves up over this. And I think this way it takes the pressure off the board, takes the pressure off the community, and it shows that we're really concerned about addressing the issue. But we've been down this road. We just spent all that time over a wastewater treatment plant. And I'm just suggesting, okay, that you really look at having somebody that's going to look at the data, and we need a neutral person here to really bring these things to the center. But I don't think anybody is against having good water on the island. That's nonsense. And it's not all about public water. Well, I mean, we're making this into way more than it needs to be. But I think this is where we keep talking and nothing gets done. Okay, I'm just suggesting that who is going to look at this data? I mean, we're here, we're 2 years later, after we went down with the center. Who's looking at this stuff? We didn't even do an environmental report when we were talking about taking wastewater to Wickets. Let's not repeat that.
We did do an environmental,
Yeah, there
we
was
did
a-
a secret.
Yeah, there was one done.
On Wickets.
Not on Glenawicus,
Not
because
on-
we didn't
on
cite it on
Manwaring.
Glenawicus, we did it on Manwaring.
It started the Wickets.
Right, but then it
And then-
pivoted, so it didn't get
Listen,
far enough
I'm
to
only
do a
making a comment, okay, and I just think it's worthwhile to have somebody who's really more neutral in this situation. And I think everybody comes to the table here with a particular point of view.
Disagree with that. I do not have my mind made up in one direction or another. I am listening to all
I'm
options.
sorry?
I do not have my mind made up in one direction or other. I am open to Albert's suggestion that we take this to the WAC and look at an island-wide, like, I'm open to it. So please do not paint all of us as being on one side or another. It's just simply not true.
I don't know about that. I mean, I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
Talking.
Anita?
Well, do you want to? Okay.
One set of experts that we do know and we do have access to is the Suffolk County Health Department. They are the people that would be conducting the tests. Let's say we did 100 tests and they say 10 houses have saltwater intrusion. We would know something. We have some data that we don't know now. Now we have rumors. Oh, Menantic is filled with, none of the water is potable. Oh, we have no houses that have water problems. Our information is all over the place. We would have some information for a certain amount of money. And really, that is all we have asked for, just to have a practical decision, a practical solution to move the discussion forward. That's really all we asked for. We did not even come to the meeting a year and a half ago asking for testing. We just said, can the town partner with the Menantic Peninsula Association to figure out, to discuss saltwater intrusion? So it did not come from the homeowners that we demand testing because the center had it. We just wanted to partner with the town because we see the town as having status and authority that other people look up to, and that would put a stamp of approval on this. It's a serious discussion that we should be having. I mean, if you say that the town has no involvement in water, then why are you discussing it? Why, as Amber said, why are you discussing having any testing? But I think the town is concerned with water. It did involve itself in Westnet Water District. It does give approval to test for water on Montclair Avenue in the Menantic Peninsula when houses don't have water. So the town has involved itself historically in water discussions. And we're just looking for a practical way to move the discussion forward. Thank you.
I think Anita makes a very good point when it comes to the health department being a partner in understanding our water quality. We did have Jason Heim come and speak to the WAC about the water quality tests that they had on record for the town. And at the time, they really did not have a large amount of test data to discuss with us. They had some, and it was interesting, but not enough people had actually taken advantage of their program for us to have a large enough sample size to really have a good understanding of what is going on in the aquifer, which is why we then went and did the nitrate testing in the center. That was actually after Jason came, and we realized we just didn't have a lot of data. And so, as homeowners take advantage of the county's program for $100 getting a full panel testing, that also helps build up their data bank. So we could always ask Jason to come back in a year and give us another report on what they see based on the additional test results that they now have in their database. So they are a resource that we can use as, time passes. They'll have more and more data that they can work with and show us and help us understand, because they do have the expertise to analyze the data. They have, the system for compiling it all. And, so it's a good partnership to have, and encouraging people to use their $100 water testing out helps us build a database that we don't necessarily have to manage and maintain ourselves. So it's a good point. Yeah. And so if we can kind of help encourage that, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
And build it into our plan. Look, not opposed to testing. But just to test to have the data so we can have it makes no sense. What's the purpose of it? If I'm all for spending this $25,000 on testing, as long as we are also doing an RFP to go out and find the right firm to do the overall water study. If those two things are married together, that makes sense. But to just do the testing, to have the testing so people know, I don't know where that takes us. But let's do both.
I do like that idea.
I don't care about $25,000 for this, and if you're gonna use WQI money for water, anything, it's really well used on an island-wide quality study. Yes, use the WQI money for that. And take this $25,000 and let people test their water, it's fine.
I see Pam, I'm gonna, it's 3:22. I'm going to stop this conversation at 3:30 just because we do have other agenda items, one of which is the Pearlman Music Program, just reviewing the site plan application from last night, and possibly.
Can we kill 6? No, just
I was
kill
gonna say, possibly chapter 10 of the comp plan.
kill it.
But we need to keep moving forward, because
Chapter 10 is not a big chapter.
and we're already partway through it. And also, I mean, some of the, the stagnation that Gordon referenced is, we need to finish the comp plan. So we keep pushing it, and so part of us not moving forward on things is, we need to have that in place so we can continue. So we need to finish our chapter review. We need to go back and look at things, and then we need to get the GIS done on it. So we need to get ourselves still moving forward on that. So I just I
We
know.
were here to 10 o'clock last night.
I know.
You were
but I
sitting
mean,
right next to me.
Yes, no, but I just want to point that out, because that is part of our stagnation, is we've got so much business before us and so many things we're dealing with, but we still have the comp plan, which is hindering us in moving forward on certain things. So just tossing it. So Pam, you had your hand up.
Yes, I just want to start from the very beginning. This is a conversation about monies that were devoted for saltwater intrusion testing, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so then why are we discussing doing full panel testing that Suffolk County Department of Health is offering up for the houses who want it in Montclair and Menantic and Silver Beach?
Because it's cost effective.
And if that's the case, then I would have to argue that should be made available to all residents of Shelter Island. I mean, it was $20,000 for saltwater intrusion, then that was the purpose of that budget item. And I'm sure a saltwater intrusion test is a whole lot less than a full panel test for 400 contaminants or whatever it may be.
Pam, thank you for supporting my earlier position, but I'm willing to throw that in to get the overall island-wide study as well. So.
Jan?
Yes, I would like to disagree with Councilman Diet. I don't think the spending $20,000 on, random tests of wells of 20,000 of taxpayers' money. It's a good use of taxpayers' money. We first need to know what are we aiming for and so forth. And I explained earlier that this may have some legal ramifications in terms of obligations for the town. And I don't think should be done. Why not the associations which claim that they are concerned about quality of their water? Why don't they organize themselves and do the testing and pay for it? And then if the results come out that there's a widespread saltwater intrusion, which I don't think they will find, but I'm not the hydrologist, just a hunch and talking to the people that know the island. That's going to be likely the case. But if there's a widespread saltwater intrusion, they're welcome to come to the town and present the conclusions and ask the town to get involved. Right now, I don't see any evidence that the town should get involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. Roma?
No, I just, I would like to wrap this into next steps.
Ask the WIC.
Task them with starting,
Gathering all the information we have.
yes,
And,
yes.
and working that into an RFP to find a firm to do the greater test.
Yeah.
And
And then what about,
once that RFP goes out, we can start reimbursing people for water testing.
I think we should collect all the information that we have and see if we actually need to do a study or if we actually have already had one done for us. USGS did one, according to Peter Grand, in 2020. That was a full hydrological for all of Long Island, including Shelter Island, that may give us what you're looking for. I know Suffolk County did a study in 2018, which had a lot of that information. We may just need someone to go analyze all the information we have and give us a report on it. We may not need an entire study done.
No, that's
So
fine. But
it's
we
just-
gather it and we do
You
an
gather it.
RFP to find the
Collecting it,
person.
And then we'll make up our decision.
Yeah, let somebody synthesize it.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Joe, you turned on your camera. Did you have something you wanted to contribute?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that I think the scoping of this is really important and the terminology is very relevant. I want to suggest that the town does not pursue a model as it's currently being described, but rather a water supply alternative study, because I think those are the questions that we're really trying to answer here. The aquifer has been modeled and examined for many different components for a very long time by different relevant agencies. But the question before the town is, how are you going to handle your water supply and water disposal? And that analysis has been done in the past. It's well overdue for a refreshing, but your study needs to examine where are your supplies, what are you doing with the water after you use it via wastewater, and what are effective ways to deliver that water, be it private wells, the costs and risks associated with ongoing on-site treatments, the costs and risks to your density and zoning associated with public water delivery. And it's a common analysis done for municipalities and regions. And the town has actually done this before, back in 2005. So that would be the approach that I recommend. And I want to commend the board for considering the use of WQI money for this, because I think that would help fast track this program if we could free up the funding to update that type of study. And I'd look forward to working with any of you, if not all of you, on scoping that document and putting together that RFP.
So far, it was just me who said WQI money.
No, I concur.
No, I would agree with you. I think it's an appropriate use of the funding.
And Joe, you'll be an invaluable resource to the WAC in helping pull this together and RFP this.
Okay, so you have one recommendation, task WAC with this, and once that has been done, then you would consider spending the 25,000 on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but we can't do it simultaneously.
We can. I don't think we need to do the carrot and stick thing.
Yeah, no, we don't. We
Yeah.
can do it all at the same
We
time.
can do it. I mean, I'm
Oh,
okay
we're-
with it. Think out the.
I'm not opposed to water testing. I'm not opposed to public water. I just want to move it forward in an intelligent fashion. That's all. So everybody understands on the island how we're moving forward and the implications of it. That's all. I would like to see some kind of a structured agreement or something, how we're doing this water testing. It just seems like it's kind of
Okay,
verbiage now, I'd like to see some structure to it, that's all.
okay.
But I think we took a big step just now by agreeing to go to outside experts and synthesize the data we have, find out what data we need, and actually report back. I
Yes.
think that is a big step.
This is a
I
great
know Joe
conversation.
already has a lot of the reports pulled together in a file and so do that part.
You know, so I don't forget.
Thank you to all of you.
All right, Sean, I do see you have your hand up, but unfortunately, it's 3:30 and we really do need to move on, so I'm not going to call on you. My apologies. Site plan review, Perlman. So we closed the public hearing last night, and we had a few open items that I could see. Was Aaron also
He was here a minute ago.
Yeah, I just want to loop him back in.
Is Stephen
because,
back in?
Stephen is on, yep. Yeah, so we won't be accepting public comment, it's just with us to look at things. So for open items that I saw is, there's a need to address the fire code issue, shielding work vehicles, lighting fixtures needing to be dark sky compliant, revegetating where necessary. We also had the adjacent property owner who was concerned with placement of the cabins.
Right.
Yes. Concern about the road, the educational institutions with ZBA.
I also have that we need to put that the approval is based on the condition that they get the health department approval for the sanitary system and the, just a water approval for the wells, which is a DEC, I believe, application. So yes, we make that, but they can't really get those until we approve the site, so. Another point I had was, do we want an official crosswalk in that area, that crossing Stearns Point from the southern parcel to the northern parcel? From, you know, they're gonna have a parking area. Do we want to have actual striping, or can they just put up temporary signage, letting people know that there's an event and people are crossing the road?
Wouldn't that be us, the crosswalk?
That's what I, yeah, is that,
So I don't think we'd put it in here, but I think we need to maybe upon completion.
Should be evaluated.
Yeah,
Right.
upon completion, then we
Right.
review it. I don't believe that's a county road, so I think that would be us.
yeah.
Well, you've got it open, so
Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
I'm ready to share my
I'm
map.
gonna rip off of you. Is this the
This
south?
is the southern piece.
The south
This is with the
parcel.
new cabins.
Okay.
I have the northern one.
No, it's the southern parcel that's in question here. And so here is the one property, so these are 3 new proposed cabins, oh, there's a 4th one, yeah, there's another one.
And there's this existing one here, which is close.
Yes, yeah, that one's 37.3, these are all 50,
They're all over 52.
okay. So even with the educational designation having a bigger,
They're still fine.
they're still within that, okay. That was one of the things I didn't feel like getting the plan back that was.
This green line is? This is what they're gonna clear?
That's what's already cleared. That's existing cleared space.
Then you're just pushing it over here.
Yeah, you're talking about just for the turnaround, fire
Yeah,
turnaround?
there's a turn and there's the lines, but I don't know if that's an improvement.
So, I mean, here's an idea. So they have these 3 new proposed cabins. Where are the existing cabins? Are they in the same location as those proposed, or?
Well, you've got over there, you've got
That's the
one
one existing and one existing. And I think the rest of these are all
And that's
proposed.
existing as well. So
Okay.
all of these.
So these 3 here, I think, are the ones that are really in contention.
Yes.
So if they get flipped to the other side of the driveway and the parking is on this side, you know, if they come over here, then it gives them more of a buffer. The roadway still exists as is.
I'm not sure there's room for all 3 of these over here.
No, I mean, the maintenance shed maybe could flip to the other side. Because then, I mean, the maintenance shed's not gonna have people talking and.
Yeah, we were having sort of a sidebar conversation over here. If you look at the distances from the property line, they all do exceed the 50.
Oh, yeah, they do.
50 foot.
They do. They're completely within the setbacks, but as they stand there, they're appropriate.
And they are cabins that are used
Seasonally.
seasonally.
You certainly can move one. That's it.
So if I just may inject something, in reviewing this, you're supposed to take into account the general public health, safety, and welfare, the comfort and convenience of the public in general, and the residents of the immediate neighborhood in particular. So I think the only thing that's really discretionary right now would be the location of those sheds on the southern parcel and whether or not you would suggest to move them to accommodate the neighbors' concerns. Everything else, as far as like fire code, dark skies, everything, we'll make that subject to the approval. But just the real substantive thing that you should discuss is the location of those cabins.
Right.
Flip one to the other side of the road easily
Right.
with those parking spaces. Swap it with those parking spaces, but that still leaves 2 in place. Unless you feel they can be shifted down, which way is that? It is east,
North,
sorry,
Northwest?
south. You shift them south?
deeper into the woods.
Well, it's more
Further away from Stearns Point? Or
further
closer
away
to
from Stearns Point.
There we go. There's a point of reference.
Yeah, that's south, but flip one to the other side of the road, swap it with those parking spaces and shift them down a little bit. It helps the lanes out.
Mm-hmm.
What was the objection to the problem with that? I know they said that they didn't want
They don't want to disturb the
to
woods
disturb the woods, but
and then create more lanes and there you have.
And they wanted the people in the cabins to walk to the main facility.
Yeah, they wanted people to be more prone to walking than to driving back and forth.
This clearing that's shown on the map, is that where the turnaround's gonna go? The fire engine? turn-
Yes,
Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's the already cleared space.
Yes.
So I think their hope was to minimize the amount of clearing they would have to do
Good thing.
and to keep it on the existing driveway and not create new driveways over the new uncleared areas to put in cabins.
Yeah. That's why swapping one cabin with those parking spaces and sliding the other 2 down a little bit doesn't create another road. I don't think there's any clearing to be done or nothing significant.
Mhm. And, yeah, I guess you've got an existing cabin there. There's a proposed maintenance shed, maybe the maintenance shed could also be shifted
I
over.
think the shed's already there.
No, it's proposed. But yes, oh yeah, I was trying to bring up the,
Yeah,
it's,
I think,
There's-
actually,
oh,
I think
there's
it does
this.
exist, yeah.
I think this is already there. Existing one-story frame cabin is this little guy right there.
yes, but I'm, next to it is the proposed maintenance shed.
And what are you proposing? The 3 cabins, where are you gonna put them?
Well, if you take one of them, the biggest one, and swap it with those parking spaces.
So
And then
you put it across the way, put it on this side
On this side?
instead.
Which one, this? which-
Oh,
Then
these, sorry,
slide these
these on
down.
this side, yeah, and it's
Okay.
fewer
I'm
on.
thinking,
The
take the
length
shed, flip the shed over here, it's unoccupied.
Oh, then do all
and then-
three.
And then put it, well, 2, I
Or
think you
2.
can only put 2 of the cabins over there, and keep that one over here. Or shift one over.
It'll make the lanes feel like they aren't being crowded in.
Yeah.
Well, and here's
where's-
the
I
other
was gonna
thing,
say-
because you have, the road comes down here, but then there's also an existing cottage off this dirt road.
I'm just trying to find it.
Which ones?
There's also, you have this existing cottage and this dirt road here, so I mean,
Yeah.
couldn't you do like 1, 2, 3, and just take those 3 and put them that way?
Okay.
Like, you can move the maintenance shed, you can do 1, 2, and then maybe 1 on the inside of that dirt road, keeps them clustered in the same area, but interior more, not so much on the property line.
How far down that dirt road are you going there?
Just depends on the turn.
Right here, just,
Yeah.
I mean, this is
So-
just, then this is gonna have to be fire apparatus.
Right, so that's why I
Stable.
was thinking if we put this over on this side, because it's, you know, kind of an inert shed, and then put like 1, and maybe it's a small 1, 2, and then the big one here, 3, and then you'd have this be, because they have to get down here anyway. Because
This
there's that
dirt now,
cottage.
then they're gonna have to
Right.
fortify this.
But no matter what, they have to fortify up to
Yeah.
that cottage, so if you add another cottage or so on there, it won't have too much impact, I don't think.
Well, I'm looking at the map, and the Lang house is over here.
Yeah, I was wondering where it was situated.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find on here, so just a few minutes.
So it's close to the property line,
It's
60 feet.
It's sort of towards the front with that existing building. It's kind of
Yes.
parallel to the existing
Here.
shed in the front corner.
There's only one building on the Lang property?
Yes,
Yes.
as far as I can see. So, I mean, these 2 are farther, yeah, further away.
So it's really
It
kind
is
of
a
this
wedge-shaped property, yeah, so if we could move that one over here, rather than them having to redesign the whole thing.
and just swap it with those
Mhm.
parking spots. And they're already proposing plantings to shield, so.
Mhm.
Swap it.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, so it would be cabin number 27.
Mhm.
And 20,
No, because what I'm suggesting is.
just 27
Yeah,
because
27, because
the
it's
rest of them
where,
are further up.
yes, because there's the Lang house there, and so
Right.
we're just moving the one that's closest.
Because this here, this is this here.
Yes,
So 27 is the one that's closest to
Mhm.
them,
yeah,
that on the other side.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, you could even leave the parking where it is and just bump it to the other side here.
Mhm.
Granted, there's a bit of a grade change here. So if you're looking at the contours,
And that's why I'm thinking only one building get moved over there.
yeah,
The contour lines are 1 foot?
it looks like it, so it's not too bad.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's good.
But if that's moved over here, then.
That gives them another 50, 60, 70 feet before they get into, like, so,
Mhm.
you know, it makes the first cottage like here.
What do you all think of that?
So there's that. Oh, it's actually up here. This is actually way up here. So the lanes are here, so the cottages are here, here, and here.
Mhm.
That's this little shed thing, whatever that is.
So this
Existing
actually-
cabin. So it's actually further up.
Mm-hmm.
So this little one is kind of here,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's 1, 2.
Yeah.
So if we swap one over, that really does give a pretty good buffer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
27, you mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What are you proposing?
So if, yeah, the proposal is that cabin 27 moves to this side.
God, it's a Tom.
And then,
Die hard.
yeah, like where this parking is, and then the
Okay.
parking can go either somewhere else. But then that gives, because the Lang's house is like here, so it gives a bigger buffer before the first cabin.
Okay. So this is in essence his property line.
Yeah,
It's
so
that building
here-
structure.
If you look at this, it holds it up on GIS.
Yeah.
So Albert, here, this here is that road with that, yeah, that road. So this is that little shed thing kind of here. So if we take the cottages, would be 1, 2, 3. If you take the one that's gonna be closest to their house and put it on this side over here where they have the
Yeah.
parking, then it gives even more space between cottage and cottage. So it's more of a buffer. And then their property kind of ends in a triangle.
So their
So they have
house,
a
their
very
home is,
triangular-
where's their home? Their home is located down more towards.
Yeah, it's
Sarah's
kind
Point.
of parallel to that
Across the
existing. Yeah, so their house is here.
Right.
So it would give a little bit more space. I hate it when it's- if the cottages start like here and here,
Right.
as opposed to like here. Put one here. And then
I
you
mean,
can even
it's
put the
added
parking on
construction,
this
but-
side. Well, no, because they don't exist yet. They haven't built them.
Okay,
They don't exist yet. This is what exists currently on Perlman's property.
gotcha.
These two cottages, this little shed thing, and then there's just these clearing. There's this one already in there, and then these dirt roads to this cottage back here. So those are the 3 new ones that they're proposing.
Well, they
So-
can move on.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking. If we move one that's closest to the Langs away, it gives more buffer.
Yeah.
And so this one would be the closest one to the Lang's house. So if we put that on this side, creates more buffer, but it keeps them clustered together.
Yeah.
And then they could even put the parking right there.
This used to be the winter home of, yeah. used to be-
A compliment.
Yeah.
No, I think it's on the other side of Smith Point. It was one of the buildings around.
Oh, yes.
Yes, yeah, this is the south part. Yeah, that was on the other side. Okay, so Stephen, we're suggesting that cabin number 27 be swapped with the parking location across the street.
And then should the
Okay.
parking maybe go between cabins 26 and 29
Yes, I would.
to keep it away from the Lang's house?
I would agree with that.
All right, so I'm going to need a description of that, and that'll be incorporated into the approval if that's the way you're going with this. And then it will be subject to receipt of amended site plan that shows that, so we can stamp the site plan. So we're not going to go back and negotiate with the applicant anymore. This would be, you're approving, well, alternative, an alternative site plan.
I think so.
Yeah, we're proposing an alternative site plan. We will, I'm sure, hear if it's not acceptable.
Correct. So what they would do is, if that's the way the town board's going, they can either make an application to reopen the hearing to discuss it, or seek an amendment thereafter at some point.
Yeah.
If they don't like what you're offering to approve.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
It shouldn't make a big difference on their sanitary plan, so it's.
Right.
Mhm.
So just to go through our standard of review, the different factors that we're supposed to consider, so we've sort of covered, the different things, but we'll make sure that Stephen gets it. Anna, unfortunately, we can't take any of your comments because the public hearing is closed. So I guess Stephen can reach out to you independently.
Well, I could reach out to the attorney.
Yes, yes. All right, so traffic, I believe we've addressed any traffic concerns. Interior circulation and parking. The fire code issue is the only open item that we will make sure that's in there.
And Reed said he was gonna work that out.
Yeah,
Yes.
he'll handle it at the
Yeah.
building permit
Yes,
level.
yes. Landscaping and screening.
That I think we've addressed.
Yep, that's been addressed. Existing development, comprehensive plan, and prior stipulations. I didn't see anything that came up there. Natural features and environmental concerns have been addressed. Cultural features, addressed. Pavement, addressed. Lighting, we're going to put in the dark sky compliant. Drainage has been addressed. Public utilities addressed. Public address and sound system was addressed. Handicapped access, the ADA compliance we're good with. Energy conservation and size. So
Yeah.
I think we've reviewed all of the relevant factors in site plan review. Okay, so
Would you like me to draft a resolution to approve?
yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
They're gonna do a SWIP, right? They're preparing a SWIP,
Yes.
Yeah.
speedy.
And yes, and we're also, we're gonna be getting our recommendation on the secret determination shortly. And that'll be incorporated into the resolution.
Yes. Well, I think we can move on to our next agenda item.
Usually fast for us. Oh, yeah, you're right. This is a bit odd.
Yes.
Meg, are you gonna be able to come up with that description of?
Yeah, I'll
We're gonna-
draw you a picture.
Okay, well,
I'll send
'cause-
you I'll send you a description. I'll do it right now. I'll work on it.
okay, awesome.
Meeting.
Chapter 10?
Okay.
Time is at 4:00.
It's 5
Imminent. Yeah, let's just go into executive. We have executive session.
Okay.
Really,
Let me just look at next week's agenda.
Listen,
Next week is Wednesday, right?
Next week is Wednesday. This is what's on the agenda for next week, which I have to look at. I did have comp plan chapter 11 on there, so I guess I'll swap in 10.
Well, we can't really do 11 until
We can't do, no,
finish 10.
no, I'm saying, I do have space reserved in
Oh,
next
okay.
week's agenda for comp plan.
Great.
Okay. All right. Board meeting reports.
You have anything? Were we not here yet? This? Sure.
A lot of budgeting last week.
Yeah, it was all budget. We didn't do anything but budget. It's not that was nothing. Still waking up in the middle of the night screaming.
Remember, we're not doing, chapter 10
No.
now.
Next week.
Okay.
We keep saying that.
it was up at Goat Hill.
Oh, the meeting, the secret meeting I wasn't allowed to go to.
Yeah. And some people just express concern. When you got up by the clubhouse, really look down the first fairway, completely brown.
Yeah.
Only the greens. So when you're along New York Avenue, tee boxes are green, but it's brown.
Oh,
The
yeah.
concern was fire threat.
Yeah.
As, you know, it's really with the drought condition that we're really in the midst of,
Mhm.
or semi-drought, whatever you want to say. There is a fire concern. I'm not a fireman, I'm not, you know, but it was really impressive to look down that first fairway and it was brown in the other direction too, from the clubhouse.
Shelter Island social media, there've been a lot of drone photos of the island, and everything's brown.
Yes.
We've only had 0.14 inches of rain since the end of August. So for October and November, I mean, September and October, that's all we've had. So we really are in a,
I mean, granted, we got a lot of rain earlier,
we
but
did, but it's
but-
dried out a bit since
Yeah.
then.
I don't know what the answer is. It was just expressed to me as a real concern.
Yeah.
I do know, last year, or maybe it was the year before, I know that the highway superintendent, public works commissioner had gone in there and cleaned out some of the areas that had some overgrown brush on the edges that could contribute to a fire hazard. So there has been a little bit of work to mitigate possible bad outcomes. But
But the lack of rain is definitely a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of people having more well issues recently because of the lack of rain.
Hay Beach, I know.
Hay Beach, and then there's some out in Silver Beach that are having saltwater problems. So it is an issue. Not having rain for 2 months is definitely causing a problem.
Something to at least, I don't know, keep an eye on.
Yeah,
And
everybody
Try to
pay
be
attention.
abreast of, yeah.
Suffolk County's at a red flag alert,
Yeah.
fire safety.
Yeah, and it's getting colder. People are gonna wanna do bonfires or outdoor grills or, fire pits, so be careful. Don't light your whole lawn and your neighbor's lawn on fire.
The only upside is the kettle hole behind my house is shrinking.
Now it's when you get your wetland survey.
that will change.
It's a joke.
Gotta be careful.
Oh, all right. Sometimes my dark humor doesn't hit well, I apologize. We did have the senior fall festival luncheon, so that seemed to have gone very well. The seniors seemed to have fun.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
We all did.
We all
Last
did.
year.
We were here. Budget meeting.
We were working. We were all supposed to go.
And then
That's for seniors, Meg, was
That was
that what you
for
did?
I didn't go, we were at a budget meeting, but I always like to go. Say hi to everybody. Health and Wellness Alliance also met on Thursday. It was a very long day Thursday. And just kind of went over kind of getting their ducks in a row for starting in the new year. They're going to be a new committee that the town is kicking off. So I think it'll be a good addition to what we're already doing. And it fills a gap. It fills a gap in our kind of, it bridges the town to the community in a new way. And I think it's going to be very helpful. So they're getting their ducks together. And then the ZBA hearing, they did make a comment about all these type 1 actions being problematic and really dragging things out. So just to reiterate that again, something to look at, hopefully soon. And that's it. It was a really long board meeting last night. 10 o'clock was too late. It is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, the second in the series of the opioid awareness series happened at the school on Friday. It was well attended and well received by the middle school and high school. I spoke to the presenter, David, I was going to say Lopez. I wanted to call him a different name, but yes. And then the community was there in the evening, and after an hour, it's like, I know way more than I ever wanted to know, and it was depressing. So,
yeah.
But it was good information. It's just scary. I'm really glad my daughters are adults.
Exactly.
So.
Our friend who's an East Hampton cop, and he says, anything they confiscate, they test, and it all is found.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah. But even some of the social media, luring young, predators out there luring young people, and it's scary. That's all that I had.
On that happy note.
Executive session.
Adjournment.
Yes, we will
Yeah.
adjourn the work session to go into executive session to discuss potential acquisition and the employment history of an employee. So, make a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.